Chapter 2341, 2341 I'll kill you. 2341 I'll kill you. With an indifferent expression, Sect Master White Bones raised his bone saber slightly and slashed down at the hell suppression tripod before him. Clang! The bone saber collided with the hell suppression tripod with a crisp sound. Su Zimo shuddered and felt an unimaginable power surge through the hell suppression tripod, could not defend against it at all. This was a peerless fiend that was ranked on the perfected fiend ranking after all. Coupled with the fact that he cultivated the White Bones Fiend Sutra, his physique and bones were strong and his strength was shocking. Even the grade 11 Green Lotus True Body could not make up for the difference of one major alongside many minor cultivation realms. Thud. 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 Su Zimo retreated continuously and felt his arms go numb, trembling gently. Oh. Sect Master White Bones raised his brow slightly in surprise. Sect Master White Bones took a step forward and a second slash descended. Clang! Another slash struck the hell suppression tripod. Although it was fine, it buzzed and trembled. If the four sacred souls were still around, they might be able to help Su Zimo defend against the impact. Right now, the four sacred souls were guiding the martial Dao prime body over. The hell suppression tripod could not defend against the power of Sect Master White Bones at all. Su Zimo's palm was torn and blood gushed out. The hell suppression tripod flew out of his hands and fell as well. Sect Master White Bones waved his cloak and swept the hell suppression tripod into his hands. He examined it carefully and ignored Su Zimo, who was in front of him. The reason why he attacked was because of the bronze square tripod. Su Zimo was just an ant in his eyes. He would leave the life and death of this man to his subordinates. Skeleton, can you tell what's the deal with this tripod? Returning to his seat, Sect Master White Bones handed the hell suppression tripod to Old Man Skeleton beside him and asked in a deep voice. Old Man Skeleton was older and more knowledgeable than Sect Master White Bones. Old Man Skeleton narrowed his eyes and sized up the hell suppression tripod. After a while, his heart stirred and his eyes lit up. Did you think of anything? Sect Master White Bones noticed Old Man Skeleton's expression and asked. Congratulations, Sect Master. Old Man Skeleton was expressionless the entire time. However, he was excited at that moment and his breathing turned heavier. If I'm not wrong, this tripod might be the legendary destiny weapon of the Infinite Great Emperor, the Hell Suppression Tripod. Pust. When he said the words Hell Suppression Tripod, Sect Master White Bones' eyes lit up and he took a deep breath. It's no wonder why it possesses such toughness and is able to defend against the bone saber of the White Bones Fiend Emperor. Sect Master White Bones murmured softly. Old Man Skeleton took a step forward and said excitedly, Sect Master, if we can refine this hell suppression tripod, we might be able to find the key to leaving this place. Ha 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 ha. Sect Master White Bones burst into laughter. Legend has it that the hell suppression tripod was suppressed in Avicii. To think that this lad would obtain it. The heavens are truly on my side now that it's in my hands. Sect Master, you've obtained the inheritance of the White Bones Fiend Emperor and now, the divine weapon of the Infinite Great Emperor. It's only a matter of time before you advance to the Grotto Heaven realm and unify the entire fiend domain. Old Man Skeleton shouted. On the other side, the combat was coming to an end. A few bone fiends joined forces and released a flurry of attacks at Su Zimo. Bang! 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 Although Su Zimo's cultivation realm was not high, he managed to last a few rounds against the encirclement of a few bone fiends with his grade 11 Green Lotus True Body and powerful melee combat strength. However, the difference in strength was immense now that he had lost the hell suppression tripod. After a few breaths, Su Zimo finally could not defend against them and was severely injured. He fell beside the two fairies and coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. Fellow Taoist Su. Yun Zhu exclaimed softly and hurried forward. Mo Qing stood in front of Su Zimo as well and tapped two fingers on her own glabella. She glared at the fiends of White Bones sect coldly and said resolutely, "If you guys take another step forward, I'll commit suicide here." "Senior sister, don't." Su Zimo endured the pain and stopped her hurriedly. Yunju hurriedly dissuaded as well, "Sister Mo Qing, don't be rash." Mo Qing did not say anything and merely glared at the fiends of White Bones sect coldly. Exerting strength in her fingertips, she had already pierced her glabella with a resolute expression. The few bone fiends frowned slightly and looked towards Sect Master White Bones instinctively. "Humph." Sneering coldly with a mocking expression, he said leisurely, "Fairy Mo Qing, what has your life and death got to do with me? You're truly way too naive to think you can threaten me with your life." Mo Qing said, "If I die, you'll never be able to obtain the inheritance of the divine ghost immortal fiend painting." "So?" Sect Master White Bones asked instead. "Fufufu." After obtaining the Hell Suppression Tripod, Sect Master White Bones was in a great mood and his laughter turned louder and louder, reverberating through the entire cave brazenly. People of the immortal domain like to think too highly of themselves. Sect Master White Bones looked at Mo Qing and Yunju in disdain. "Painting immortal Mo Qing? Ha! Why are you pretending to be pure and innocent in front of me? You're nothing but a whore and a slut." "What did you say?" When Mo Qing heard that, her face turned incomparably pale and her voice trembled. Up till this point of her cultivation, she was known as the Painting Immortal. No matter where she went, she was respected and admired by countless cultivators. No one had ever said such things to her. A smug look flashed through the eyes of Sect Master White Bones. He continued, "I've long heard about you, Painting Immortal Mo Qing. Initially, I thought that you were some high and mighty fairy who could not be sullied. Later on, I heard that you got together with disciples of the same sect and spent your days fornicating in bliss." "Ha ha ha ha." "What?" Mo Qing was extremely furious and her body trembled with a pale expression. By the time Meng Yao's rumors spread to the fiend domain, they were already twisted beyond recognition. At the very least, the people of the immortal domain cared about their dignity. Even if they discussed, they would not go overboard and restrain themselves. However, the cultivators of the fiend domain were fearless. As a peerless fiend, Sect Master White Bones had no qualms about his words. He wanted to attack her heart. The more vicious his words were, the more they could hurt Mo Qing. "Ha ha ha." The fiends of White Bones sect let out evil laughter and countless gazes sized up Mo Qing brazenly. "So, she's just a whore and yet she's pretending to be reserved. People of the immortal domain sure love to put on pretenses." Under those gazes, Mo Qing felt that she was alone and helpless, as though she was left alone standing naked in front of countless fiends. "I didn't." "Nonsense." Mo Qing shook her head repeatedly and explained with a pale expression. However, the more she explained, the more smug Sect Master White Bones became and the more the fiends laughed wantonly. Mo Qing looked around and saw extremely ugly faces. As she listened to the filthy words, she felt deep helplessness and despair. The words of men were enough to destroy Bones. A crack gradually appeared in Mo Qing's Tao heart. Right then, four divine lights shone from the darkness of the cave and sped over, entering the Hell Suppression Tripod in the hands of Sect Master White Bones in the blink of an eye. Sect Master White Bones was stunned for a moment before rejoicing. He could clearly sense that the aura of the Hell Suppression Tripod had turned even more terrifying. When he saw that, Su Zimo laughed bitterly and stood up shakily, declaring, "Sect Master White Bones, your death has arrived." "My death has arrived?" Sect Master White Bones burst into laughter. "In Avicii, I wield the Hell Suppression Tripod and I'm the only god. Who would dare to kill me? Who can kill me? I'll kill you." 3 words sounded from the darkness on the other side, powerful, cold and sinister. Chapter 2342, 2342 Black Fire Lotus. 2342 Black Fire Lotus. A figure walked out slowly from the darkness. He wore a purple robe and his black hair scattered. He wore a silver mask that hid his appearance, revealing only a pair of eyes that were as deep as the sea. The martial Tao prime body had arrived. You? With a dark gaze, Sect Master White Bones sized up the martial Tao prime body but could not make out anything. In Avicii, only Immortal King experts could pose a threat to him. The aura emitted by the martial Tao prime body was far from as terrifying as an Immortal King expert. The feeling the martial Tao prime body gave him was more mysterious than powerful. Furthermore, in Avicii, even Immortal King experts could not summon their grotto heavens and their combat strength was greatly reduced. They could only rely on their bodies and blood chi. Sect Master White Bones had 2 Emperor weapons in his hands, 13 bone fiends, 2 protectors and thousands of fiends. Even Immortal Kings would have to die here if all the fiends swarmed forward. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? Sect Master White Bones sneered. The martial Tao prime body ignored Sect Master White Bones and shifted his gaze to Mo Qing, who was not far away, frowning slightly. Given his sharpness, he could naturally tell that Mo Qing's Tao heart was unstable and she had suffered a huge blow. If one could not break free from their mental demons, their cultivation realm advancement would come to an end as well. If there are people in the world who slander, bully, humiliate, laugh at, look down on, degrade or hate you, there's no need for you to endure or explain yourself. The martial Tao prime body said slowly. There was a Zen Sanskrit in his voice that could penetrate one's heart. It was like a warm current that flowed through Mo Qing's Tao heart, soothing her gently. Mo Qing looked at the martial Tao prime body in a daze and asked instinctively, "What should I do?" "Just kill them." The martial Tao prime body said indifferently. "Ah!" Mo Qing exclaimed softly. She lowered her head with a pained expression and murmured, I can't do it." She was not strong enough to defeat even the fiends of White Bones sect. Even if she had the strength, she could not start a massacre over something like this. She was from the immortal domain and was also the painting immortal. She was in seclusion all year round and was obsessed with the Tao of painting. In the depths of her heart, she was extremely resistant to killing and the strife of the outside world. "It's fine." The martial Tao prime body said calmly, "I'll help you kill them." Mo Qing's heart skipped a beat and she looked up at the martial Tao prime body instinctively. Among the 14 bone fiends, there were already people who could not stand it anymore. In a flash, Transformation Bone Fiend charged towards the martial Tao prime body and cursed, "Puny rat, how dare you put on a front before me? Die." Transformation Bone Fiend was extremely fast and arrived before the martial Tao prime body in the blink of an eye. Without hesitation, he attacked with a killing move. He extended 2 fingers and dug towards the eyes of the martial Tao prime body. The martial Tao prime body wore a silver mask and only revealed a pair of eyes. Although Transformation Bone Fiend did not know the background of the martial Tao prime body, no matter the level of an expert, the eyes were a fatal weakness of the body. The martial Tao prime body was motionless. In fact, he did not even look at Transformation Bone Fiend directly. The martial Tao prime body only attacked and the fingers were almost touching the silver mask on his face. Without any unnecessary movements or martial techniques, he merely raised his hand and slapped. It was too fast. His attack was released after but arrived sooner. Everyone saw that the martial Tao prime body had just raised his hand when the slap landed on Transformation Bone Fiend's face. Crack. 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 Right in front of everyone, the head of Transformation Bone Fiend spun more than 10 times before stopping and drooping on his shoulders. Transformation Bone Fiend died on the spot. His eyes bulged with a stunned expression. Even till his death, he could not figure out what had happened. The 14 bone fiends were all perfected fiend experts. But now, a perfected fiend was killed with a casual slap. Sect Master White Bones narrowed his gaze with a grim expression. This person was very strong. Fiends, listen up. Attack together and kill him. He was extremely cautious. Even with the two Emperor weapons, he did not advance rashly and face the martial Tao prime body alone. Instead, he summoned the fiends of White Bones sect to swarm forward together. Very good. The martial Tao prime body looked at the thousands of fiends charging over and nodded slightly. Suddenly, two pitch-black flames rose in his eyes beneath the silver mask. The next moment, the aura of the martial Tao prime body changed drastically. He stood there motionlessly, looking sinister and terrifying, as though he was an envoy from the depths of hell. Suddenly, Sect Master White Bones felt his heart skip a beat. Without hesitation, he stopped in his tracks and retreated. Sensing the actions of Sect Master White Bones, Old Man Skeleton reacted extremely quickly and did not charge forward with the fiends. Phew! Right then, a black flame appeared beneath the feet of the martial Tao prime body and spread rapidly in all directions. The incoming fiends of White Bones sect did not have time to dodge and fell into the black sea of flames in the blink of an eye. The black flames did not have any searing sensation. Instead, they were sinister and could trigger the deepest pain in every cultivator's heart. Hellfire. Ah! 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 Many fiend cultivators let out tragic cries as their features contorted. With menacing expressions, they tore at their own flesh continuously as though they had gone mad. The fiend cultivators did not seem like they could feel any pain as they were covered in injuries from their own tearing and blood gushed out. Some of them tore off large pieces of flesh and even revealed white bones without stopping. Everyone's bodies, noses, mouths and eyes were emitting black flames as they struggled and shrieked in the sea of flames. It was not that they could not feel pain. It was because compared to the pain caused by the black flames in their bodies, the pain of their skin and hair was nothing. With the martial Tao prime body as the center, the black flames spread in all directions, forming a gigantic black lotus flower that trapped thousands of fiends from White Bones sect within. No one could escape. What is this? Old Man Skeleton had a horrified expression as though he had seen a ghost. Although he managed to survive the calamity and was not tainted by the black flames, he was almost scared out of his wits when he saw that. Even if they were attacked by the living beings of Avicii, it would not be as tragic and shocking as the scene before them. Impossible. Sect Master White Bones's eyes widened in disbelief as he grit his teeth. We can't use our essence spirits, divine powers or secret skills in Avicii. How did he break the laws of Avicii? Avicii was a world of its own and contained the laws formed by the Dharmic Tao of the infinite great emperor. Even immortal kings and emperors would be restricted. Although the martial Tao prime body had entered the true martial realm, he was only at the perfected one realm equivalents of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Taoists and could not release divine powers or secret skills. However, there was a flame in Avicii that could never be extinguished. Hellfire. The birth of the black flames contained the true intent of pain from millions of living beings. It was created from Avicii and did not require heaven and earth essence chi to begin with. Chapter 2343, 2343 Epiphany Fiend Sutra. 2343 Epiphany Fiend Sutra. Notwithstanding Sect Master White Bones and the others, the two fairies were pale as well. Thousands of fiend cultivators of White Bones sect swarmed forward with torrential auras. However, in the blink of an eye, they were trapped by the black fire lotus and suffered a fate worse than death. What sort of capabilities were those? The purple-robed cultivator stood with his hands behind his back in the black flames. His silver mask was cold and he exuded a sinister and terrifying aura, as though he was the divine being that controlled Avicii. Yunju could not help but ask, Sister Mo Qing, you know this person? As the book immortal, she was experienced and knowledgeable about the heavenly world. In fact, she knew many secrets of the upper world and had heard of many experts. However, she had never seen such a mysterious person. After the martial Tao prime body appeared, he said something to Mo Qing. Furthermore, it was clear that he was comforting her and even said that he would help her kill the fiends of White Bones sect. Therefore, Yunju instinctively thought that the martial Tao prime body knew Mo Qing and rushed over to save her because she was in trouble. Mo Qing shook her head gently and said in a daze, I don't recognize him. You don't know him either? Yun Zhu was slightly stunned. After pondering for a moment, she said, perhaps you can't recognize him because he's wearing a mask. You might remember him after he removes his mask. No. Mo Qing shook her head. Everyone has their own unique aura. Even if they wear masks, they can't hide it. If I've seen him before, I'll definitely have an impression of him. Furthermore, I'm in seclusion in the academy all year round and rarely travel outside. None of the disciples of the academy know such shocking methods. Yun Zhu was puzzled. If this person was not here for Mo Qing, who was he here for? Could it be a coincidence? The silver mask on that person's face reminded her of a treasure. However, that treasure belonged to Emperor Bo Sun. Although this person was strong, it was clear that he was not Emperor Bo Sun. Yun Zhu pondered and connected all the information she had obtained during this period of time, forming a guess in her mind. I see. She murmured softly. Later on, a moon-devouring heavenly wolf escaped from Avicii. However, many people neglected one thing behind that piece of news. Apart from the moon-devouring heavenly wolf, there were other people from the fiend domain that fell into Avicii. The purple-robed man before him should be one of them. Now that he had obtained the Mara mask, there was a high chance that he had obtained some inheritance of Emperor Bo Sun. That was the reason why he was able to survive till now in Avicii. Although Yun Zhu did not deduce the identity of the martial Dao prime body with the fake news, she was partially right. Indeed, the martial Dao prime body came from the fiend domain and fell into Avicii. On the other side, Xia Tianhong and the other two gasped and felt their scalps tingle when they saw the methods of the martial Dao prime body. Could this be an immortal king? Xia Tianhong could not help but ask. No. Perfected immortal imperial dragon said in a deep voice, although the power of that black flame is terrifying, its energy fluctuation is far from the level of an immortal king. Su Zimo was relieved when the martial Dao prime body arrived. When he heard the discussions of Xia Tianhong and the other two, he glanced over and said indifferently, let me advise the three of you to escape now. If you delay, all three of you will have to die here. Humph. Suppressing the fear in his heart, Xia Tianhong sneered, Su Zimo, stop exaggerating. This purple-robed exalted immortal is decisive to kill, but he only kills those from the fiend domain. Why will he kill the innocent? On the other hand, you had better be careful, Su Zimo. Oh. Su Zimo raised his brows slightly and looked at Xia Tianhong with a fake smile. Xia Tianhong said proudly, the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom is one of the three immortal kingdoms of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Furthermore, my father is one of the strongest immortal kings of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. When he was young, he traveled everywhere and befriended all the experts in the world. If this purple-robed exalted immortal knows my father, once I implore him to attack using my status as a prince of the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom, you'll be dead for sure. Foo-foo. Su Zimo chuckled and ignored Xia Tianhong. You want to chase us away with just a few words? Naive. Xia Tianhong sneered internally with a disdainful expression. There was no way the three of them would leave this place. There were living beings of hell everywhere outside. Leaving this place was equivalent to courting death. Xia Tianhong thought that Su Zimo was instigating them to take advantage of the chaos to escape because he wanted to send them to their deaths. The battle in the cave broke out suddenly and ended quickly. It was almost over. Hellfire was restricted by the laws of Greater Avicii and would not kill the living beings within. Instead, it would torment them endlessly. However, there were no laws and restrictions outside Greater Avicii, and the killing power of the hellfire was even more terrifying than the Red Lotus karmic fire. The fiends of White Bones sect could not withstand the hellfire at all. In less than 10 breaths, their essence spirits and souls were destroyed, leaving only black ashes on the ground. The martial Dao prime body stepped on the embers and walked towards Sect Master White Bones. Sect Master White Bones looked at Old Man Skeleton, who was not far away, in silence. Suddenly, his eyes flickered. Old Man Skeleton had followed him for many years and understood. Kill. Sect Master White Bones wielded the bone saber in his right hand and the hell suppression tripod in his left. With a deep growl, he charged towards the martial Tao prime body. He cultivated the supreme fiend technique, the White Bones Fiend Sutra. His bones were indestructible and his body was strong. Relying on his powerful melee combat skills, he was ranked 10th on the perfected fiend ranking. In the environment of Avicii, he could maximize his advantage. Now that he wielded 2 Emperor weapons, he could sweep through all perfected fiend experts. Of course, Sect Master White Bones was worried that something might happen as well. Therefore, he gestured for Old Man Skeleton to restrain painting immortal Mo Qing while he was fighting the martial Tao prime body to blackmail the latter. Old Man Skeleton was expressionless and did not dare to raise his head to look at the martial Tao prime body, afraid that he would alert the latter. He did not dare to act rashly either. It was only when Sect Master White Bones fought against the martial Tao prime body that he moved and charged towards Mo Qing with a murderous aura. As long as he could restrain Mo Qing, they would be able to take the initiative. On the battlefield, the blood chi of Sect Master White Bones surged like raging tides crashing onto shore. A tsunami raged and his blood chi churned as a gigantic phantom of white bones appeared behind him. He released his bloodline phenomenon without holding back at all. Swish. Sect Master White Bones circulated his blood chi and raised his bone saber, slashing towards the martial Tao prime body. At the same time, the sinister White Bones behind him did the same thing and made the same gesture, slashing towards the martial Tao prime body as though it wielded a bone saber as well. With the augmentation of his bloodline phenomenon, the power of that slash became even more terrifying. It was as though he was one with the White Bones phenomenon behind him. He was the White Bones and they were him. His menacing fiend form appeared alongside the White Bones. At that moment, the profound truths of the White Bones Fiend Sutra circulated in his heart. The Dharmic Tao that he had not comprehended previously was instantly enlightened. In this life and death battle, he actually comprehended a fiend technique and slashed out the strongest slash he had ever made in his cultivation path. Sect Master White Bones was invigorated and his aura surged instantly, climbing a level. Chapter 2344, 2344 What are you doing? 2344 What are you doing? Looking at the trajectory of the bone saber in midair and sensing the sharpness it emitted, even Sect Master White Bones felt a sense of amazement. In fact, a thought flashed through his mind. Perhaps, even without the hell suppression tripod, this single slash was enough to kill this person. The martial Tao prime body did not dodge. His expression was unchanged beneath the silver mask. Instead, he extended his palm and grabbed the incoming bone saber barehanded. The reason why the martial Tao prime body did not dodge was not because he could not. It was because he wanted to test how strong the true martial Tao body that he had created after entering the true martial realm was. You must have a death wish. When Sect Master White Bones saw the martial Tao prime body grabbing his bone saber barehanded, his eyes lit up and his lips curled. The bone saber in his hands was once an emperor weapon. Although its cultivation realm had fallen, the sharpness of an emperor weapon was still present. This slash was enough to slice the purple-robed cultivator before him into two. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. The bone saber struck the palm of the martial Tao prime body and tore through his flesh. However, it was stuck between his bones and could not advance any further. The smile on Sect Master White Bones' face froze. No matter how he channeled his bloodline phenomenon, he could not slash down. When the bone saber struck the bones of the martial Tao prime body, it could not cut them. He felt as though he had struck an indestructible divine weapon or dharmic treasure. You. Disbelief filled the eyes of Sect Master White Bones. Is that all? The martial Tao prime body asked indifferently. The reason why he dared to receive Sect Master White Bones' bone saber barehanded was not because he was overconfident. Sect Master White Bones was only a perfected fiend. Even if he possessed a true emperor weapon, he could not unleash the full power of it. However, the dermic Tao had yet to nourish his flesh. That was the reason why he was injured by Sect Master White Bones' bone saber and his flesh was torn. That bit of injury was completely negligible for the physique of the martial Tao prime body. At that moment, not only could Sect Master White Bones not slash down when the martial Tao prime body grabbed his bone saber, he could not retract it either. The palm of the martial Tao prime body gripped the bone saber tightly like an iron hoop. Sect Master White Bones released his bloodline phenomenon and his full strength. However, the bone saber remained motionless in the palm of the martial Tao prime body. "You're too weak." The moment the martial Tao prime body spoke, he raised his hand, clenched his fist and punched. Phew. It was a simple action and punch without any martial techniques or probing. However, an incomparably tragic aura burst forth and suffocated everyone. Pressure surged over from all directions and Sect Master White Bones felt as though his body was about to explode as his bones trembled. He could not describe the terror of that punch with words. He only knew that his slash earlier on was like a 3-year-old child's trick against that punch. He only knew that up till this point of his cultivation, he had never seen such a ferocious fist. Even his White Bones phenomenon trembled continuously and creaked under the envelopment of that punch, as though it could collapse at any moment. Ah! At that critical moment, he growled and used the hell suppression tripod to shield himself. Clang! The fist of the martial Tao prime body struck the hell suppression tripod heavily and let out a long sound, as though it was a bell from the depths of an ancient monastery. The hell suppression tripod trembled continuously. Even with the hell suppression tripod as a shield, a tremendous power surged into Sect Master White Bones' body through the tripod. Crack! 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 The jarring sound of bones cracking could be heard from the arm of Sect Master White Bones that was lifting the tripod. Right in front of everyone, the flesh on his arm exploded into a grisly blood mist. The White Bones phenomenon that was initially behind Sect Master White Bones was shattered by a single punch from the martial Tao prime body. The sinister phenomenon collapsed. Xia Tianhong and the other two widened their eyes in shock. It was way too savage. A single punch severely injured Sect Master White Bones, who was rank 10 on the perfected fiend ranking despite the hell suppression tripod in between them. Sect Master White Bones' arm exploded into flesh and blood as his bones shattered and hung limply. The hell suppression tripod fell as well. The martial Tao prime body reached out and picked up the hell suppression tripod, sending it into his consciousness. The moment the martial Tao prime body escaped, the two true bodies had already communicated. Although the cultivation realm of the martial Tao prime body was far superior to the Green Lotus true body, he did not have any divine weapons or dermic treasures beside him. He was almost defenseless when he met with danger in Avicii this time round. Therefore, Su Zimo was prepared to leave the hell suppression tripod with the martial Tao prime body. Another thing was that the Green Lotus true body's cultivation realm was restricted and he could not unleash the power of the hell suppression tripod or truly control it. As for the martial Tao prime body, his cultivation realm was superior. After entering the true martial realm, he was equivalent to the perfected one realm of the immortal Tao. If the martial Tao prime body used his essence spirit to refine the hell suppression tripod, he might be able to control this emperor weapon completely. By controlling the hell suppression tripod, he had a chance of controlling Avicii. The hell suppression tripod could be of greater use to the martial Tao prime body and would also provide an extremely obvious boost to the latter. Even if the hell suppression tripod was in the hands of the Green Lotus true body, he had many reservations in the divine firmament immortal domain and could not use it casually. However, the martial Tao prime body had no such worries. He was wearing the Mara mask and no one knew who he was. Now that the martial Tao prime body had entered the true martial realm, his combat strength had increased exponentially and he could come and go freely. With the help of the hell suppression tripod, he could escape unscathed even if he encountered an immortal king expert. The martial Tao prime body put away the hell suppression tripod and took a step forward. He reached out to grab the head of Sect Master White Bones. The bone saber was still in the hands of the martial Dao prime body. Helpless, Sect Master White Bones could only release his hand and escape from the pursuit of the martial Dao prime body as he turned to flee. Although he was fast to adapt, the movement technique of the martial Dao prime body was even faster. The moment Sect Master White Bones turned around, the palm of the martial Dao prime body descended. Crack! The palm of the martial Dao prime body gripped the back of Sect Master White Bones's neck and squeezed gently. The neck of Sect Master White Bones shattered instantly. Although the fight between the two of them sounded slow, it happened in a flash. In almost 2 to 3 breaths, Sect Master White Bones was restrained by the martial Dao prime body. At that moment, Old Man Skeleton, who was charging towards Fairy Mo Ching, had just arrived before her. Old Man Skeleton had a vicious expression and extended his skinny hands in silence. His blood chi surged and he was prepared to release his full strength to capture Mo Ching alive. Yunju had yet to recover from her poison injuries and could not attack. Su Zimo had just been severely injured and had lost his combat strength. Old Man Skeleton was confident that he could suppress Mo Ching, who was alone, within 3 moves. However, when Old Man Skeleton attacked, Mo Ching did not resist or dodge. She looked at him with a strange gaze. To be precise, Mo Ching's gaze passed him and landed behind him. Yunju was also looking behind him in surprise and shock. Old Man Skeleton was puzzled. What was behind him that made Mo Ching forget to dodge and give up on resisting? "What are you doing?" Right then, someone asked indifferently. The person who spoke was right behind him. Old Man Skeleton seemed to be able to sense the person's breathing. Pust. Suddenly, Old Man Skeleton felt chills run down his spine. Chapter 2345, 2345 Strange Feeling. 2345 Strange Feeling. The purple-robed cultivator with the silver mask had already arrived behind him. How could this be? Wasn't that person already stopped by the sect master? Random thoughts flashed through Old Man Skeleton's mind. He could see painting immortal Mo Ching right in front of him, within reach, but he did not dare to move at all. Old Man Skeleton turned around slowly and looked behind him. With that glance, he saw a cold silver mask. The eyes beneath the mask were deep and cold without any emotions. Old Man Skeleton's heart skipped a beat. He looked down. There was someone else in the hands of the martial Dao prime body. It was Sect Master White Bones. The master of White Bones sect, the peerless fiend ranked 10th on the perfected fiend ranking, was in a wretched state. His cloak was stained with blood and one of his arms was crippled while his neck was crushed. Although Sect Master White Bones was not dead yet, his head was slumped and he was already helpless against the martial Dao prime body like a half-dead old dog. Old Man Skeleton's Adam's apple bobbed as he gulped. He tried his best to squeeze out a smile and said with a quivering voice, "Ye exalted immortal, I'm already in my twilight years. Please spare my life and let me fend for myself in this hell." Old Man Skeleton did not realize that on this wrinkled old face of his, smiling was even uglier than crying. The martial Dao prime body looked at him indifferently without saying anything. However, he suddenly waved his robes and slapped Old Man Skeleton. Bang! Old Man Skeleton was sent flying by the martial Dao prime body and turned into a black shadow, smashing heavily against the pitch-black stone wall beside him with a blood mist. Old Man Skeleton's entire body seemed to have been turned into a painting as he stuck to the stone wall and slid down slowly. By the time he landed on the ground, he had already turned into a meat sludge and was dead. In the cave, there were a few other White Bones sect fiends that stood on Mo Ching and Yunju's side. They managed to escape the calamity without being enveloped by the black fire lotus. Before they could recover, Sect Master White Bones was suppressed by the martial Dao prime body and Old Man Skeleton was smashed into sludge by a single slap. Ah! In the eyes of the fiends of White Bones sect, the martial Dao prime body was a demon from the depths of hell. In the face of this demon, they were nothing at all. None of the fiend cultivators of White Bones sect stayed to beg for mercy. What happened to Old Man Skeleton when he begged for mercy? This demon was decisive to kill and would not listen to their explanation or give them any chance. Therefore, the fiend cultivators of White Bones sect fled out of the cave. There were countless living beings of hell outside and they were most likely doomed. However, even against the living beings of hell, none of them wanted to face this demon. Right then, perfected immortal Jingyu and perfected immortal Imperial Dragon who had been watching from the sidelines exchanged glances. Suddenly, they stood up and stopped the fiend cultivators of White Bones sect. Xie Tianhong's heart skipped a beat and he instantly understood the intentions of the two perfected immortals. After the purple-robed exalted immortal appeared, it was clear that he was targeting the fiend cultivators of White Bones sect. If they helped the purple-robed exalted immortal kill the remaining lackeys, it would be equivalent to standing on his side. Actually, this was nothing much. Even if they did not attack, the few fiend cultivators of White Bones sect would not be able to escape. However, by doing this, they could ensure that the purple-robed exalted immortal would not feel irked by them. They were also expressing goodwill towards the purple-robed exalted immortal. If they could seize this opportunity to join forces with the purple-robed exalted immortal, they might be able to find a chance of survival in Avicii. At that thought, Xie Tianhong was invigorated and joined the battle as well. The remaining few fiend cultivators of White Bones sect were only at the heaven immortal realm and could not defend against the killing power of the two perfected immortals. Furthermore, they had just been scared out of their wits. But now, a perfected fiend was killed with a casual slap. Sect Master White Bones narrowed his gaze with a grim expression. This person was very strong. Fiends, listen up. Attack together and kill him. He was extremely cautious. Even with the two Emperor weapons, he did not advance rashly and face the martial Dao Prime body alone. Instead, he summoned the fiends of White Bones sect to swarm forward together. Very good. The martial Dao Prime body looked at the thousands of fiends charging over and nodded slightly. Suddenly, two pitch-black flames rose in his eyes beneath the silver mask. The next moment, the aura of the martial Dao Prime body changed drastically. He stood there motionlessly, looking sinister and terrifying, as though he was an envoy from the depths of hell. Suddenly, Sect Master White Bones felt his heart skip a beat. Without hesitation, he stopped in his tracks and retreated. Sensing the actions of Sect Master White Bones, Old Man Skeleton reacted extremely quickly and did not charge forward with the fiends. Phew! Right then, a black flame appeared beneath the feet of the martial Dao Prime body and spread rapidly in all directions. The incoming fiends of White Bones sect did not have time to dodge and fell into the black sea of flames in the blink of an eye. The black flames did not have any searing sensation. Instead, they were sinister and could trigger the deepest pain in every cultivator's heart. Hellfire. Ah! 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 Many fiend cultivators let out tragic cries as their features contorted. With menacing expressions, they tore at their own flesh continuously as though they had gone mad. The fiend cultivators did not seem like they could feel any pain as they were covered in injuries from their own tearing and blood gushed out. Some of them tore off large pieces of flesh and even revealed white bones without stopping. Everyone's bodies, noses, mouths and eyes were emitting black flames as they struggled and shrieked in the sea of flames. It was not that they could not feel pain. It was because compared to the pain caused by the black flames in their bodies, the pain of their skin and hair was nothing. With the martial Dao Prime body as the center, the black flames spread in all directions, forming a gigantic black lotus flower that trapped thousands of fiends from White Bones sect within no one could escape. What is this? Old Man Skeleton had a horrified expression as though he had seen a ghost. Although he managed to survive the calamity and was not tainted by the black flames, he was almost scared out of his wits when he saw that. Even if they were attacked by the living beings of Avicii, it would not be as tragic and shocking as the scene before them. Impossible. Sect Master White Bones's eyes widened in disbelief as he grit his teeth. We can't use our essence spirits, divine powers or secret skills in Avicii. How did he break the laws of Avicii? Avicii was a world of its own and contained the laws formed by the Dharmic Tao of the infinite great emperor. Even immortal kings and emperors would be restricted. Although the martial Tao prime body had entered the true martial realm, he was only at the perfected one realm equivalents of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Taoists and could not release divine powers or secret skills. However, there was a flame in Avicii that could never be extinguished. Hellfire. The birth of the black flames contained the true intent of pain from millions of living beings. It was created from Avicii and did not require heaven and earth essence chi to begin with. Chapter 2346, 2346 What's your name? 2346 What's your name? I'm Xia Tianhong of the Yen-Yang Immortal Kingdom of the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Greetings, exalted immortal. When Xia Tianhong saw the martial Tao prime body walk over, he hurried forward and smiled. We've already killed these small fries from the fiend domain. It was nothing much, Fufu. Perfected immortal Jing Yu cupped his fists and praised, fellow Taoist, it's truly a blessing for the heavenly world that White Bones sect will be destroyed now that you've killed sect master White Bones. Fellow Taoist, you sure are capable. I've never seen anyone like you in my life. Perfected immortal imperial dragon lamented, back then, I was fortunate enough to participate in a grand event of the Nine Firmament Immortal Domain and witness the glory of the Supreme Perfected Immortal. However, compared to you, even he is inferior. Xia Tianhong and the other two walked forward and praised, expressing their goodwill. The martial Tao prime body did not say anything the entire time. The silver mask was cold and expressionless. Not far away, Su Zimo suddenly sneered and looked at Xia Tianhong and the other two mockingly. What are you laughing at? Xia Tianhong glared at Su Zimo and said in a deep voice, your rudeness is an act of disrespect towards this exalted immortal here. The blame was pinned on Su Zimo without even giving him a chance to explain things. Yun Zhu and Imo Qing frowned. Xia Tianhong was way too sinister, it was clear that he wanted to kill with a borrowed knife. Xia Tianhong observed the martial Tao prime body as he said that. However, the martial Tao prime body wore a silver mask and his eyes were deep like an ancient well without any fluctuations. Xia Tianhong could not read his mind either. Xia Tianhong probed, exalted immortal, this person was disrespectful to you. As long as you allow it, I'll kill him. The three of you don't even know that you're about to die? Su Zimo had a mocking expression and said indifferently, there's something you guys might not know yet. At that point, he paused for a moment. For some unknown reason, perfected immortal Jing Yu and perfected immortal imperial dragon suddenly felt uneasy. It was as though Su Zimo's next words would bring about a calamity for them. Su Zimo raised his hand and pointed to the martial Tao prime body with a faint smile. He's here to help me. Xia Tianhong and the other two were stunned and their expressions froze. Yun Zhu had thought of countless possibilities previously, but she had never thought that the purple-robed man would know Su Zimo. That was because of something that happened in the battle earlier on. While suppressing sect master White Bones, the purple-robed man took the hell suppression tripod for himself. In Yun Zhu's opinion, if the two of them knew one another, why would the purple-robed man do such a thing? Something's not right. Perfected immortal imperial dragon frowned with a bewildered expression. He thought of the hell suppression tripod as well and shook his head. This fellow Taoist came to help you? Absolutely impossible. There's no need for you to put on a bluff here. Piak. Suddenly, the martial Tao prime body attacked and slapped the top of perfected immortal imperial dragon's head. It was too fast. Notwithstanding the fact that perfected immortal imperial dragon was unprepared, even if he had seen the attack from the martial Tao prime body coming, he would not have been able to defend against it. Suddenly, perfected immortal imperial dragon's head received a tremendous force and caved into his chest from the slap. It exploded within and his essence spirit was destroyed, dying on the spot. Xia Tianhong and perfected immortal Jing Yu stood at the side and shuddered in fear. Perfected immortal imperial dragon died just like that. The purple-robed man before them did it as simply as though he was crushing an ant. See, I'm really not bluffing. Su Zimo raised his brows slightly and spread his hands. Furthermore, I even reminded you guys out of goodwill to escape as soon as possible. Unfortunately. Fellow Daoist, let me explain. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu took a deep breath and looked at the martial Dao Prime Body, as though he wanted to say something. The martial Dao Prime Body attacked once more. It was the same backhand slap. This time round, Perfected Immortal Jing Yu was prepared and could see everything clearly. He raised his arms hurriedly above his head, wanting to defend against the attack of the martial Dao Prime Body before turning to escape. However, when the palm of the martial Dao Prime Body landed on his arms, he realized that he could not escape. Although it seemed like a simple palm strike, it released a shocking might that could not be defended against. Crack. Although Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's arms were broken, he could not defend against the palm of the martial Dao Prime Body. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. No matter how the mantis waved its arms, it could not reverse the outcome of being crushed to death as the chariot charged over. Piak. The palm of the martial Dao Prime Body slapped the top of Perfected Immortal Jing Yu's head. Perfected Immortal Jing Yu shuddered and his gaze gradually dimmed. He fell limply and died. Two Perfected Immortals were slapped to death by the martial Dao Prime Body. Xia Tianhong's legs trembled and his face turned pale. However, he was a prince of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom after all and ruled over a territory. He had seen many storms. At that moment, he tried his best to compose himself and his mind circulated rapidly as he thought of countermeasures. Fellow Daoist Su, please show mercy. Xia Tianhong squeezed out a smile and begged, I was wrong this time round and attacked you repeatedly because I was blinded. As long as you're willing to let me off, I can swear that I won't make things difficult for you in the future. Su Zimo's expression was indifferent, totally unmoved. Xia Tianhong had tried to kill him twice and he would not show mercy either. Xia Tianhong turned to look at the martial Dao Prime Body. Exalted Immortal, my father is the Immortal King of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom. As long as you're willing to spare my life, no matter what your needs are, I can seek permission from my father to grant them. Pausing for a moment, he made a firm resolution and grit his teeth. Fellow Daoist, if you kill me, given my father's methods, it'll be difficult for you to gain a foothold in the Nine Firmament Immortal Domain in his rage. Xia Tianhong had already thrown caution to the wind and was even threatening in his words. All right, let him look for me in the Fiend Domain. The martial Dao Prime Body said indifferently and waved his hand. Bang! The sleeves of the martial Dao Prime Body struck Xia Tianhong and sent him flying. While Xia Tianhong was still in midair, he exploded into a blood mist and his essence spirit was destroyed. Naturally, the martial Dao Prime Body would not give them any chance when he attacked. Is he really here to help you? Yun Zhu turned to Su Zimo and asked softly. That's right. Su Zimo nodded. In the upper world, the martial Dao Prime Body was his greatest foundation and secret, there was no way he could reveal this identity casually. The martial Dao Prime Body wore the Mara mask. Not only could it conceal his appearance and isolate his spirit consciousness, even his voice would change when he spoke through the mask. Therefore, as long as the martial Dao Prime Body did not remove his mask, no one would know his identity and background. Are you from the Fiend Domain? Right then, Mo Qing asked softly. Yes. The thoughts of the martial Dao Prime Body were focused on the hell suppression tripod in his consciousness. He did not look at Mo Qing and merely replied casually. Mo Qing thought to herself, there's nothing much about the Fiend Domain. There are good people in the Fiend Domain as well. What? She looked at the martial Dao Prime Body and hesitated. The martial Dao Prime Body was immersed in the hell suppression tripod and did not notice her. A moment later, Mo Qing took a deep breath and asked weakly, as though she had mustered immense courage, what's your name? The martial Dao Prime Body was silent. A long time later, he said, Desolate Marshal. Chapter 2347, 2347 Ruling Hell. 2347 Ruling Hell. Desolate Marshal. Mo Qing chanted internally. When she heard that title, Yunzhu fell into deep thought. She recalled the many ancient books she had read up till this point of her cultivation and wanted to find clues about Desolate Marshal. However, she could not figure anything out even after thinking for a long time. She had definitely not heard of Desolate Marshal. Even Desolate Marshal's methods earlier on were not things she had witnessed before. The Marshal Dao Prime Body remained silent and closed his eyes, immersed in the Hell Suppression Tripod and sensing the changes within. The Hell Suppression Tripod was once an Emperor weapon. Even if its cultivation realm fell, now that the 4 sacred souls within were awakened, it was at least a sentient dharmic treasure. The Green Lotus True Body was only a Grade 2 Heaven Immortal. Even if his essence spirit realm was higher and he was at the level of a Grade 4 Heaven Immortal, he would not be able to truly refine the Hell Suppression Tripod. After the Marshal Dao Prime Body entered the true martial realm, he was equivalent to a perfected immortal and his essence spirit had already reached the perfected immortal realm. Therefore, when the essence spirit of the Marshal Dao Prime Body refined the Hell Suppression Tripod in his consciousness, he gradually discovered many secrets and was delighted. The Hell Suppression Tripod was the key to Avicii. The Marshal Dao Prime Body refined the Hell Suppression Tripod and gradually established a connection with it. Through the Hell Suppression Tripod, the Marshal Dao Prime Body could sense everything in Avicii. It was an extremely mysterious feeling. Apart from greater Avicii, everything in Avicii, including the living beings of Hell, seemed to be able to be reflected in the mind of the Marshal Dao Prime Body through the Hell Suppression Tripod. The Marshal Dao Prime Body, Hell Suppression Tripod and Avicii had established a close connection. The situation of the 16 lesser hell in Avicii as well as the environment and terrain within appeared clearly in the mind of the Marshal Dao Prime Body. At that moment, a realization flashed through the mind of the Marshal Dao Prime Body. With the help of the Hell Suppression Tripod, he had already gained initial control of Avicii and became its master. Avicii formed a world of its own and was isolated into 16 lesser hells. Every single lesser hell was boundless. However, even though he was standing here, the Marshal Dao Prime Body could make use of the Hell Suppression Tripod to extend his senses to every corner of Avicii. As long as he wanted to, he could know everything that happened in Avicii. Many experts were buried in Avicii and countless treasures were left behind. All those treasures would belong to the Marshal Dao Prime Body. Of course, the greatest help and improvement for the Marshal Dao Prime Body might not be treasures, but the inheritances left behind in Avicii by many experts. The experts who were trapped here in the past would be indignant and preserve their inheritances in various forms before their deaths, waiting for fated people. For example, Senior Yudaozi's inheritance was left in the Divine Ghost Immortal Fiend painting. Some experts might carve their inheritances in the form of words. If he could smelt all of those inheritances, it would be of immense help to the Marshal Dao Prime Body as he continued to deduce the dharmic formulation of the Marshal Dao. There were close to 2 eras of civilization buried in Avicii. Wielding Avicii did not merely mean that he could obtain the treasures here. This also meant that the Marshal Dao Prime Body would become the successor of the 2 eras of civilization. There was a high chance that the Marshal Dao Prime Body could create a brand new civilization and era through the experience of those 2 eras. On the other side, when Yunzhu saw that the Marshal Dao Prime Body was silent the entire time, she turned to Su Zimo and asked softly, "Are you very close to Desolate Marshal?" "Very." Su Zimo nodded as he thought to himself, "We're not just close, we're the same person." Yunzhu frowned slightly in confusion. The relationship between Su Zimo and Desolate Marshal gave her a strange feeling. If they were very close, why did the two of them not say a single word or even exchange glances after Desolate Marshal appeared? If their relationship was ordinary, why would Desolate Marshal descend here and kill all the fiends of White Bones sect and even Xia Tianhong and the other 2 without a second word? What's his background? Yunzhu asked. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, he was also someone from the lower worlds in the past. Later on, he ascended to the fiend domain and established Tianhuang sect. Right now, He's the sect master of Tianhuang's sect. Tianhuang's sect? Yunju shook her head gently. She had never heard of this faction. The territory of the Fiend domain was vast and there were countless sects and factions of various sizes. There were countless black-grade sects like Tianhuang's sect. How could Yunju have heard of them? What should we do now? Yunju asked again. Su Zimo had a relaxed expression as he pointed at the martial Dao prime body. It's fine, he can send us out of here. After the martial Dao prime body controlled the hell suppression tripod, the laws of Avicii no longer affected him. In fact, he could even rely on the hell suppression tripod to tear through space in Avicii and arrive at various locations in this hell rapidly. The martial Dao prime body could also sense that there was an intersection between every 4 of the 16 lesser hells. They were the spatial nodes of Avicii. There were 4 such spatial nodes in Avicii that corresponded to the 4 tripod walls of the hell suppression tripod. As long as he summoned the power of the sacred soul on the corresponding tripod wall of the hell suppression tripod, he could break through the spatial node and teleport the living beings of hell out. The cave they were in right now was one such spatial node. That was the reason why no living beings of hell entered this place. Even without the hell suppression tripod, the strength of Emperor Realm experts was enough to break through such spatial nodes. 1,000 years ago, Emperor Bo Sun broke through a spatial node and left. However, if the hell suppression tripod was suppressed in Avicii, even the power of an emperor would not be able to break through the 4 spatial nodes. The mind of the martial Dao prime body was still immersed in the hell suppression tripod. His perception extended continuously as he searched for the Soraka fruit. Su Zimo had another important motive for coming here, the Soraka fruit. The martial Dao prime body exclaimed softly and his eyes lit up in joy. As his senses extended, he caught sight of an old friend from Tianhuang mainland in Avicii. However, immediately after, the expression of the martial Dao prime body darkened and he exuded a chilling killing intent. The martial Dao prime body summoned the hell suppression tripod and struck the void before him gently. The void trembled and split apart instantly, revealing a dark spatial tunnel that led to an unknown place. The martial Dao prime body entered in a flash. Su Zimo followed closely behind. He stood in front of the spatial tunnel and paused for a moment. If Mo Qing and Yunju were still here, they might encounter some danger. It was better to bring the 2 of them along. Senior sister, fellow Daoist Yunju, follow me. Su Zimo turned back and said. Mo Qing did not hesitate or worry about where the spatial tunnel led to and stepped in behind the martial Dao prime body. Yunju's poison injuries had not healed and her combat strength had not recovered. However, she could move freely. She went forward as well and entered the tunnel alongside Su Zimo. Chapter 2348, 2348 Old Friends. 2348 Old Friends. In a corner of Avicii, 2 monks stood. They were covered in blood and looked extremely wretched. They must have experienced countless dangers along the way. At the front was a middle-aged monk. He was tall and burly with raised brows and widened eyes, resembling an enraged Vajra. Behind the tall monk was a young monk. He looked much thinner and lowered his head, chanting the Ksitigarbha Buddhist sutras continuously. The tall monk gazed ahead with a fervent excitement in his widened eyes. There was a figure sitting in a lotus position. He had existed for a long time but the flesh on his body showed no signs of decay. His skin was rosy like a living person. However, there was no longer any life in that figure's body. Beside the figure were a few fruits. Not far away, there was an ancient tree that was in tatters. Although its leaves were withered, its trunk was still intact. I've finally found Founder Master Ananda's inheritance. The tall monk looked at that figure and could not help but burst into laughter. As long as I inherit Founder Master Ananda's inheritance, I'll have a chance of condensing a grotto heaven and becoming an immortal king, becoming the abbot of Vesa Monastery. The young monk did not reply and continued chanting his Buddhist sutras. The tall monk took a deep breath and strode forward, prepared to receive the inheritance of Founder Master Ananda. However, when he was 100 feet away from Founder Master Ananda, he was blocked by an unimaginably repulsive force. A golden halo gradually appeared within Founder Master Ananda's body and spread rapidly, forming a barrier with a radius of 100 feet that isolated the tall monk. Bang! 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 No matter how the tall monk charged, he could not break through the golden barrier. Founder Master Ananda, why won't you let me in? The tall monk was enraged and hollered, I'm Arhat Buchen of Vesa Monastery. I'm the only one qualified to receive your inheritance. The golden halo showed no signs of diminishing. The young monk's head was still slightly lowered as he chanted sutras. Stop chanting. When the tall monk saw that Ananda's inheritance was within reach but he could not obtain it, he felt frustrated and could not help but scold indignantly, I'm an Arhat of Vesa Monastery who condensed the Arhat Tao fruit. Why is Founder Master Ananda stopping me? Senior Brother Buchen, you brought 10,000 monks from Vesa Monastery into Avicii this time round. Now that we're here, there's only the two of us left. Humph. Arhat Buchen harumphed coldly and said slowly, you possess the inheritance of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. You should understand the spirit of selfless sacrifice better than anyone else. Their sacrifices will allow Founder Master Ananda's inheritance to see the light of day once more. This is the fortune of Vesa Monastery and their merits are immeasurable. The young monk shook his head gently. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva sacrificed himself to save all living beings. As for you, you sacrificed others to accomplish yourself. The difference between Buddha and fiends lies in their intent. Senior brother, you've already turned into a fiend. How can you obtain the recognition of Founder Master Ananda? Arhat Buchen's expression darkened as he said coldly, how dare a mere earth immortal like you lecture me? If I hadn't protected you along the way, you would have been torn apart by those living beings of hell given your combat strength. Senior Brother Buchen, you must have other motives for protecting me, right? The young monk said indifferently. Arhat Buchen raised his brow, seemingly surprised. After a moment of silence, he said, there's no harm in telling you openly. I need you to hand over the cultivation technique of the Ksitigarbha golden body. And if I don't? The young monk asked. Arhat Buchen smiled. It's not appropriate for me to attack you in Vesa Monastery. However, there's only the two of us in Avicii right now. No matter how I torture you, no one else will know. If that doesn't work, I can even use the soul-searching art on you. Although the soul-searching art could search one's memories, there was a high chance it would fail. Furthermore, lineage memories like the Ksitigarbha golden body were almost always protected and it was difficult to obtain them even if one's soul was searched. The young monk had an indifferent expression and his eyes were clear without any fear. He said calmly, if I reveal the cultivation technique of the Ksitigarbha golden body, you will probably get rid of me right away, senior brother. Arhat Buchen's gaze was dark. Initially, he thought that this young monk was simple-minded and focused on Zen cultivation, chanting sutras and paying respects to Buddha all day long. This was somebody naive and knew nothing about schemes and plots. To think that his junior brother would expose his plans with a single sentence. Arhat Buchen was frustrated to begin with because he could not get close to Founder Master Ananda or obtain the inheritance. Now that the young monk was still so calm in the face of his threat, he was even more frustrated. Arhat Buchen took a step forward and reached out, grabbing the young monk by the throat and lifting him up. He said coldly, Junior brother, I don't have much patience. You had better tell me the complete cultivation secret skill and I can give you a swift death so that you won't be tortured. The young monk's throat was gripped and he could not breathe, causing his face to flush red. However, his gaze was still calm and his eyes were clear. He looked at Arhat Buchen with a hint of pity. Right then, a crack appeared in the void beside the two monks. A purple-robed cultivator with a silver mask strode out. His eyes were deep as he glared at Arhat Buchen coldly with a chilling killing intent. Immediately after, Su Zimo, Mo Qing and Yunzhu arrived as well. Ming Zhen. Su Zimo was delighted when he saw the young monk and shouted. The two true bodies had ascended to the heavenly world for thousands of years but only met two old friends from Tianhuang mainland. Among them, the Thunder Emperor, Feng Cantian, was an expert of the primordial era. To be precise, Su Zimo had only met a single old friend from Tianhuang mainland in this generation, the Azura, Yan Beichen. To think that he would be able to meet Ming Zhen in Avicii. Who are you guys? Arhat Buchen looked at Su Zimo and the others and narrowed his eyes slightly with a grim expression. He still gripped Ming Zhen's throat while using him as a shield. Phew. A gentle breeze blew past. Arhat Buchen felt his vision blur. Before he could react, the martial Dao prime body was already standing in front of him, gripping his wrist and exerting strength. Crack. Arhat Buchen's wrist was crushed by the martial Dao prime body. Ah! Arhat Buchen shrieked tragically. However, his cry stopped abruptly. The martial Dao prime body crushed Arhat Buchen's wrist and strode forward. With a single punch, he ruptured the latter's head and his essence spirit shattered, dying on the spot. Even the 10th on the perfected fiend ranking, Sect Master White Bones, could not defend against a single punch from the martial Dao prime body, let alone Arhat Buchen. Su Zimo hurried forward and supported Ming Zhen. Junior brother Ming Xian. Ming Zhen looked at Su Zimo and greeted with an innocent and bright smile. His manner of addressing Su Zimo seemed to have brought the two of them back to the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. The two of them exchanged glances and smiled. Now that they were reunited in the upper world after so many years, apart from joy, there was also melancholy. Chapter 2349, 2349 Inheritance. 2349 Inheritance. Back in Tianhuang mainland, Monk Daming had seen Ming Zhen. Despite Monk Daming's Dao heart cultivation, after he exchanged glances with Ming Zhen, he averted his gaze instinctively, lamenting, "The enraged gaze of a Vajra can't match the lowered gaze of a Bodhisattva." Even Monk Daming had to bow down to Ming Zhen in terms of attainments in Buddhism. It was clear how deep Ming Zhen's attainments in Buddhism were. It was only logical that Ming Zhen could ascend to the pure land of bliss. However, Su Zimo had not expected Ming Zhen to come to Avicii. "Patron, you are." Ming Zhen looked at the martial Dao prime body. Ming Zhen knew of the existence of the martial Dao prime body. However, he had never seen the latter wear the Mara mask and did not recognize him immediately. "He's desolate martial." With his back facing the two fairies, Su Zimo looked at Ming Zhen and winked as he spoke. The two of them had lived at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley for 20 years and spent time together. The chemistry between them was obvious. Ming Zhen nodded without saying anything more. Su Zimo pointed to Mo Qing and Yunzhu. "I'm currently in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain and have joined Heaven and Earth Academy. This is my senior sister, Painting Immortal Mo Qing. This is Book Immortal Yunzhu. Greetings, fellow Taoists." Ming Zhen's gaze was clear. Even when he saw the peerless beauties of the two fairies, there was no fluctuation in his eyes and he merely cupped his fists. The two fairies looked at Ming Zhen curiously as well. They had never seen anyone with such clear eyes. Su Zimo asked, "How have you been all these years after your ascension? What's your current cultivation realm? Why did you come to Avicii?" Ming Zhen said, "It's a long story. I only managed to join Vesa Monastery by some freak coincidence and am now a grade 9 Earth Immortal." Ming Zhen ascended slightly later than Su Zimo. Su Zimo had obtained many opportunities and was only a grade 2 Heaven Immortal right now. It was already rare for Ming Zhen to cultivate to become a grade 9 Earth Immortal. Ming Zhen glanced at Arhat Buchen who had just died. "As for why I'm in Avicii, I was completely forced and had no choice." At the side, Yunzhu pondered for a moment. Vesa Monastery, one of the 4 great Buddhist monasteries of the Pure Land of Bliss's Jambudvipa. 1,000 years ago, a heavenly king of Vesa Monastery died in the hands of Emperor Bo-sun. The founder master of Vesa Monastery's monastery is Emperor Ananda. Ananda is a Tao title in Sanskrit that translates to joy and celebration. It said that Emperor Ananda was buried in Avicii. Mingjun nodded and looked at the figure that was filled with a golden glow not far away. This is the corpse of founder Master Ananda. Su Zimo turned back and his heart skipped a beat. Emperor Ananda had died for countless years. To think that his body would still be intact and indestructible. The martial Tao Prime Body's heart skipped a beat as he recalled the scene of Emperor Bo Sun revealing his fiend form. A golden light appeared and helped them defend against Emperor Bo Sun. The golden light that Emperor Bo Sun referred to was Ananda. Su Zimo smiled. It's a blessing in disguise for you. If you hadn't come to Avicii, I don't know when we would have had the chance to meet again. Furthermore, Emperor Ananda's inheritance should have been preserved. Mingzhen, this is an opportunity that belongs to you. Go and accept the inheritance. Mingzhen shook his head gently. Buddhism purifies all living beings. Everyone who is here has an equal chance of obtaining Emperor Ananda's inheritance. We're not monks of the Buddhist monasteries. How can we pass through this golden barrier? Yunju asked. Mingzhen said, the final barrier left behind by founder Master Ananda does not depend on one's cultivation background. For example, senior brother Buchen was from the Buddhist monasteries. Although he cultivated to become an arhat, his heart has already fallen into the fiend Tao and he can't enter. Simply put, the golden halo left behind by Emperor Ananda still depended on the aura of each person and whether it was compatible with him. If one had a deep comprehension of Buddhism, they could enter as well. Mingzhen advanced and indeed, the golden halo did not stop him and he advanced extremely smoothly. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo went forward to give it a try as well. The golden halo did not stop him too. Back in Tianhuang mainland, Su Zimo had a deep understanding of Buddhism. After ascending, he cultivated the taboo mystic classic of the Buddhist monasteries, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Although it could not compare to Mingzhen, it far surpassed most Buddhist cultivators. Mingzhen arrived before Emperor Ananda successfully and assumed a lotus position. When Su Zimo was 10 feet away from Emperor Ananda, he was met with immense resistance and could not advance. When they saw that, the two fairies were curious and advanced one after another. However, neither of them could enter the golden halo. The two of them came from the 9 firmament immortal domain and knew nothing about Buddhism. Coupled with the fact that their auras were quite different from the Buddhist monasteries, they were ostracized. The martial Tao Prime Body was silent for a moment before suddenly advancing. Yunju shook her head gently. Although she did not say anything, she had already predicted that Desolate Marshal would not be able to enter. Desolate Marshal came from the Fiend domain and wore the Mara mask. There was a high chance that he had already obtained the inheritance of Emperor Bo Zunhao. Could he be recognized by Emperor Ananda? Indeed. When the martial Tao Prime Body advanced, he was blocked by the golden halo and could not enter. The martial Tao Prime Body did not retreat. His eyes were deep and emotionless as his aura changed drastically. His body seemed to have turned into a bottomless black hole. The martial Tao Prime Body turned into chaos from head to toe. There were no immortal, Buddhist or fiend Taos. It was a completely different aura. The golden halo could not sense the origin of that aura either. The martial Tao Prime Body seemed to be shrouded by a layer of fog as he strode in. In the blink of an eye, the martial Tao Prime Body arrived before Ananda as well. The two fairies were dumbfounded. What was up with Desolate Marshal? He was clearly from the Fiend domain, but he obtained the recognition of Emperor Ananda. Right now, there were two people in front of Emperor Ananda, Mingzhen and the martial Tao Prime Body. Su Zimo was slightly further away. The inheritance of Emperor Ananda did not appear even after a long time. It was as though the inheritance he left behind had not expected such a situation. A moment later, two golden beams of light burst forth from Emperor Ananda's glabella and entered Mingzhen and the martial Tao Prime Body's bodies. This meant that Mingzhen and the martial Tao Prime Body would inherit the inheritance of Emperor Ananda at the same time. A sutra appeared in the mind of the martial Tao Prime Body, the Agama Sutra. It was as though a voice was narrating the contents of the sutra in the mind of the martial Tao Prime Body, imparting the Tao and Buddhism. Ming Zhen listened intently. However, the martial Tao prime body did not take it to heart. Instead, he flipped through the contents of the Agama Sutra. He would not cultivate this Buddhist sutra. Instead, he would fuse it into the martial Tao furnace and absorb the profoundness of the dharmic Tao within. Firstly, this Agama Sutra was definitely inferior to the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Secondly, it was enough for the martial Tao prime body to obtain the inheritance. Thirdly, he caught sight of the Saraka fruit not far away and a relatively intact trunk of the Ashoka tree. Chapter 2350, 2350 Flower World. 2350 Flower World. Su Zimo went forward and placed a few Saraka fruits and the damaged tree trunk in a separate storage bag to keep. If he could absorb and refine such a thick trunk completely, he had a chance of attaining greater mastery of the grade 11 green lotus true body and his cultivation realm would advance by leaps and bounds. However, Su Zimo had no such plans for the time being. Although the Ashoka tree trunk did not have any life force and was dilapidated, it was mostly whole with its branches intact. Su Zimo had a bold thought. If he could revive the Ashoka tree, it would create an even greater value. Of course, the possibility of that was extremely low. Even if he could not succeed, Su Zimo could accept it as well. At that time, he would just absorb and refine the Ashoka tree trunk. Su Zimo patrolled the vicinity as he walked. Suddenly, his gaze landed on the fingertip of Emperor Ananda and gradually froze. Emperor Ananda held a Saraka flower in his fingers. The Saraka flower had long withered. However, when Su Zimo focused his gaze, he realized that there was another universe in the Saraka flower, as though it contained a boundless world. Su Zimo looked at the Saraka flower and could not help but immerse himself in it. This world looked familiar with 9 mountains, 8 oceans, and 4 continents. At the edge of this world, there was a circle of pitch-black mountain ranges. When Su Zimo saw the mountain range, his first reaction was Great Tai Wei Mountain. This world was the pure land of bliss. Great Tai Wei Mountain was also known as Great Vajrawheel Mountain. The mountain range was way too long and almost endless, surrounding the entire pure land of bliss and forming a clear boundary. Although Su Zimo passed by this mountain range, he could not get a full view of it. Right now, Su Zimo's mind was immersed in the Saraka flower. He seemed to have become a bystander as he arrived above the pure land of bliss and looked down. He could see the full appearance of Great Vajrawheel Mountain. A mysterious feeling gradually reverberated in Su Zimo's mind. In the lower worlds, he had once cultivated a dharmic seal called the Great Vajrawheel Seal. After ascending, although the dharmic seal could also be released with heaven and earth essence chi, its power was ordinary. However, at that moment, when he saw Great Vajrawheel Mountain with his own eyes, he felt something and gradually understood the deeper meaning and truth of the Great Vajrawheel Seal. The existence of Great Vajrawheel Mountain was the natural barrier of the pure land of bliss and was indestructible. Be it Vajrawheel Mountain or Great Vajrawheel Mountain, it was the same. In the battle that killed Emperor Bo Sun back then, where more than 20 emperors attacked, Great Vajrawheel Mountain could not be shattered even when the Ashoka tree was destroyed. When released, that dharmic seal was meant to be indestructible. At the same time, Su Zimo came to a realization. Emperor Ananda hid his dharmic Tao in the world of the Saraka flower and passed it down. The process of imparting the technique was rather mysterious. Under normal circumstances, even if Su Zimo cultivated to the perfected immortal realm, he would not be able to see the full appearance of Great Vajrawheel Mountain. That was because the territory of the pure land of bliss was way too vast and the gaze of a perfected immortal could not take in the entire Great Vajrawheel Mountain. Therefore, Su Zimo had no chance of comprehending the essence of the Great Vajrawheel Seal. However, Emperor Ananda hid Great Vajrawheel Mountain and even the entire pure land of bliss within the Saraka flower. It had a mysterious feeling of a mustard seed that could accommodate a mountain. Su Zimo looked at Great Vajrawheel Mountain in the Saraka flower and conjured the Great Vajrawheel Seal in his hands. He repeatedly tried to comprehend the intent of indestructibility and was completely immersed, forgetting where he was. The two fairies were surprised when they saw that. Initially, there were only 2 golden beams of light on Emperor Ananda's glabella that entered Mingzhen and the martial Tao prime body's bodies. But now, another golden beam of light shot into Su Zimo's body from the withered Soraka flower held by Emperor Ananda's fingertip. This is... Mo Qing was puzzled. Yunju said, fellow Taoist Su is truly amazing. He has also obtained the recognition of Emperor Ananda and is receiving the inheritance of the Dharmic Tao. Furthermore, this Dharmic Tao originates from the Soraka flower and seems different from the one of desolate Marshall and Mingzhen. After a long time, Su Zimo was finally able to grasp the essence and profoundness of the great Vajra wheel seal before stopping. However, his mind did not leave the Soraka flower and continued exploring. Before long, his gaze landed in the center of the pure land of bliss. There stood a tall and mighty mountain peak. It was majestic and exuded an incomparably heavy pressure that was suffocating. Mount Meru. The center of the pure land of bliss. The moment he saw Mount Meru, Su Zimo knew that the great Mount Meru seal he comprehended in the lower worlds was way too superficial. The great Mount Meru seal that he had once condensed was merely in form and did not have the divine charm of this mountain. One could only comprehend the essence of the great Mount Meru seal after witnessing this legendary sacred mountain of the Buddhist monasteries personally. The essence of the great Vajra wheel seal could be called toughness. In that case, the essence of the great Mount Meru seal could be called heavy. It was extremely majestic and filled with heavy might. In the entire upper world, Mount Meru was the heaviest mountain peak. The Dharmic seal in Su Zimo's hands changed and began to evolve the great Mount Meru seal continuously, comprehending the Dharmic Tao left behind by Emperor Ananda in the Soraka flower. As time passed by, Su Zimo gradually comprehended something. He let out a long breath and withdrew his consciousness from the Soraka flower. Right then, the Soraka flower in the hands of Emperor Ananda dissipated silently, turning into dust that scattered in the air with the wind. There's a saying in Buddhism that a flower creates a world. To think that I would be lucky enough to meet you today. Thank you for imparting the Tao, Senior. Su Zimo lamented internally and bowed deeply towards Emperor Ananda. At the same time, the golden light between Emperor Ananda, Mingzhen and the martial Tao prime body dimmed gradually and eventually dissipated. Immediately after, Emperor Ananda's body dissipated bit by bit in front of everyone and disappeared into the void. The reason why the flesh and body of Emperor Ananda was preserved so well was entirely because of his Dharmic Tao. Now that his Tao inheritance was imparted, his shell dissipated as well. Mingzhen knelt before Emperor Ananda and kowtowed 3 times respectfully. There was only one fiend vanquishing staff left where Emperor Ananda sat. Even after so many years, the fiend vanquishing staff was still filled with a faint golden light. The fiend vanquishing staff was emblazoned with the word joy. This was the Destiny Emperor weapon of Emperor Ananda in the past. Ananda was a Sanskrit Tao title that meant joy and celebration. Mingzhen looked at the martial Tao prime body. The martial Tao prime body shook his head gently. Take it, I don't need it. You inherited the Dharmic Tao of Emperor Ananda and the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. You're the only one who can unleash the true power of this Emperor weapon. Chapter 2351. 2351 We're all on the same side. 2351 We're all on the same side. Be it Su Zimo or Mingzhen, they were already on the brink of a breakthrough after receiving the inheritance of Emperor Ananda. However, because there was no heaven and earth essence chi in Avicii, their cultivation realms showed no signs of changing. If the two of them were to leave this place and absorb heaven and earth essence chi, they would break through right away. Tens of thousands of monks from Vesa Monastery have died here. If you're the only one who returns safely, you'll probably be in endless trouble. The martial Tao prime body said, I have a faction in the fiend domain. Why don't you follow me to the fiend domain? There's an old friend from Tianhuang mainland there as well. All right. Mingzhen nodded. As long as one is dedicated to the Buddha, they can cultivate anywhere, be it the fiend domain or the Pure Land. I'm from the lower worlds. Although I was able to join Vesa Monastery after ascending to the Pure Land of Bliss all these years, I've never felt any sense of belonging. Ming Zhen did not say it explicitly, but Su Zimo already understood. All these years, he had encountered countless injustices in the divine firmament immortal domain because he came from the lower worlds. Although he joined Heaven and Earth Academy, there were still many cultivators discussing his background in secret. In the divine firmament immortal domain, he killed his way through, destroying the execution guards and obtaining the top of the Earth ranking. He killed many paragons and condensed the 10th stone step on the Tao Heart Stairs, creating many unprecedented records. Even so, he was targeted by people. How could it be any better off for Ming Zhen, who never bothered about worldly affairs? Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the Thunder Emperor, Feng Cantian, was domineering and talented. However, in the end, he was imprisoned for hundreds of thousands of years. Even after he managed to break free, he was tortured and severely injured, only able to flee far away into the fiend domain. After this matter, be it the Green Lotus True Body or the Martial Tao Prime Body, they were prepared to leave Avicii and return to Heaven and Earth Academy and the fiend domain respectively. However, there was still something strange about this matter of Avicii. Avicii did not have any cracks at all. Even immortal kings would die here if they entered it. Where did that news come from and how did it spread through the heavenly world? Was it done on purpose or was it leaked by accident? Out of caution, Su Zimo decided to separate his two true bodies and leave Avicii at different times one after another. At that thought, the Martial Tao Prime Body came before Mo Qing and handed over the divine ghost immortal fiend painting in his hands. This painting should be yours, right? Earlier on, he suppressed Sect Master White Bones and comprehended the secret of the Hell Suppression Tripod. Immediately after, he appeared to save Ming Zhen and did not manage to return the painting to Mo Qing. The Martial Tao Prime Body said, "If there's nothing else, I'll send you guys out of this place right now." Yunzhu frowned slightly and glanced at Su Zimo beside her, feeling anxious for him. The Hell Suppression Tripod was taken away by Desolate Marshal, but it was never returned. Yunzhu had witnessed this and remembered it in her heart. But now, Su Zimo's expression was calm and there was nothing unusual about him, as though he had forgotten about this matter completely. Even now that they were about to leave, Su Zimo did not seem like he had any intention of asking for it. When Yunzhu saw the Martial Tao Prime Body return the divine ghost immortal fiend painting to Mo Qing, she felt that it was a suitable opportunity. At that thought, she looked at the Martial Tao Prime Body and smiled. "Fellow Taoist Desolate Marshal, thank you for saving us this time round." The Martial Tao Prime Body nodded slightly without saying anything. Yunzhu changed the topic. "However, there's something I want to tell you, fellow Taoist. The bronze square tripod you obtained after suppressing Sect Master White Bones belongs to my friend. I believe that you definitely have no intention of taking it for yourself. Perhaps you've forgotten about this matter, so I'll take the liberty to remind you. Please forgive me if I've offended you." No matter what, Desolate Marshal had just saved them. Therefore, Yunzhu spoke with politeness. Su Zimo listened at the side and was curious what Yunzhu wanted to say to the Martial Tao Prime Body. To think that he would be implicated with just a few words. He coughed gently. It's fine. We're all on the same side." "Huh?" Yunzhu was stunned and looked at Su Zimo in confusion. Su Zimo explained hurriedly, "I'm very familiar with him. It's just a lousy tripod. Let him play with it. It's fine." Lousy tripod? Yunzhu was dumbfounded. The Hell Suppression Tripod was an emperor weapon and might even be the key to wielding Avicii. No matter how close the two of them were, there was no way he could give away a treasure as such casually, right? Su Zimo thought for a moment. Well, he's just someone with a tough fist. Other than that, he's actually very poor and doesn't have any dermic treasures to protect himself. It's nothing much to give him a tripod. I've still got some lousy stuff here. In fact, I was vexed that I had no one to give them to. As he said that, Su Zimo opened his storage bag and rummaged through it. He caught sight of something in a corner. It was an ancient bronze lantern. He rolled up the bronze lantern with his robes and took it out of his storage bag, tossing it to the martial Tao prime body as he said casually, "Since this lousy lantern can't be lit, it's yours." That bronze lantern was the soul lantern Su Zimo obtained in the Emperor's tomb. The origin of the soul lantern was mysterious, and it could absorb souls as oil to ignite with the flames of one's spirit consciousness. Back in the Emperor's tomb, the oil in the soul lantern had long been exhausted. Although Su Zimo had carried the soul lantern with him all these years, he had not discovered the origin of it. The reason why he rolled up the soul lantern with his robes was because once he touched it, his essence, spirit and soul would be in danger of being absorbed by it. This soul lantern was definitely an extremely powerful treasure, since even the hell suppression tripod could not devour and refine it. Back in the Emperor's tomb, the flames of the soul lantern could even isolate the curse of the Emperor's tomb. In the hands of the Green Lotus true body, the soul lantern was akin to a pearl covered in dust, and he did not have the chance to use it. As for the martial Tao prime body, he had already smelted the hell suppression tripod and would return to Avicii in the future. If the time was right, the martial Tao prime body even wanted to explore greater Avicii. He could have greater confidence with the soul lantern by his side. Thanks to Yunju's question, Su Zimo took the chance to throw the soul lantern to the martial Tao prime body. When the martial Tao prime body saw the soul lantern fly over, he reached out and wanted to receive it. However, the moment his palm made contact with the soul lantern, his expression changed. The martial Tao prime body experienced the same situation when the Green Lotus true body first touched the soul lantern in the Emperor's tomb. His martial spirit was pulled by a powerful force and was about to enter the soul lantern. Once the martial spirit entered the soul lantern, it would become the oil of the soul lantern. The martial Tao prime body reacted extremely quickly, and the martial spirit fire burned. Thereafter, he circulated the Fiend Obsession Sutra and activated the Mara mask, isolating the connection between his essence, spirit and soul lantern. The suction force of the soul lantern weakened slightly. The martial Tao prime body retracted his hand hurriedly and waved his sleeves, sweeping up the soul lantern into his storage bag. The entire process happened in a flash. Naturally, no one could tell that the martial Tao prime body had just experienced immense danger in that instant. Chapter 2352, 2352 Light of Day. 2352 Light of Day. The two true bodies were telepathic, and the martial Tao prime body naturally knew about the characteristics of the soul lantern. The reason why he reached out to touch it was because he wanted to test if he could withstand the strange power of the soul lantern after entering the true martial realm and forging the true martial Tao body. Unfortunately, the martial Tao prime body could not withstand it either. If he could not wield the soul lantern, the martial Tao prime body had no intention of returning to greater Avicii for the time being. After all, that was the core of Avicii. Even with the hell suppression tripod, the martial Tao prime body was not confident. Nobody knew what secrets were hidden in greater Avicii. He would explore the 16 lesser hells first. If his cultivation could advance further and he could control the soul lantern, it would not be too late for him to re-enter greater Avicii. When Yunju saw Su Zimo's stance, she could not say anything more. However, in the depths of her heart, she was still puzzled about the relationship between Su Zimo and Desolate Marshal of the Fiend Domain. The martial Tao prime body said, "My strength is limited. Even if I can use the hell suppression tripod to open up a spatial node in Avicii, I won't be able to teleport you guys too far away." That did not matter. As long as they could leave Avicii, there would be a teleportation formation nearby, and Su Zimo and the other two could teleport back. The martial Tao prime body summoned the hell suppression tripod and opened up a spatial node, revealing a tunnel that led out of hell. "Aren't you leaving with us?" Mo Qing was silent for a moment before raising her head. She looked at the martial Tao prime body and asked softly. The martial Tao prime body shook his head gently. He had the hell suppression tripod with him and would not encounter danger even in Avicii, He was in no hurry to leave. Ming Zhen was prepared to follow him to the fiend domain and would not leave for the time being. Su Zimo and Yun Zhu had already walked to the side of the spatial tunnel. Mo Qing was still standing on the spot motionlessly with her head lowered. It was unknown what she was thinking, but she looked distracted. "Senior sister?" Su Zimo called out in confusion. Mo Qing did not seem to have heard anything and continued standing there quietly. "That's far from the truth." Yun Zhu rolled her eyes at Su Zimo with a fake smile. She turned to Mo Qing and reminded softly, "Sister Mo Qing, let's go." "Ah." Mo Qing seemed to have woken up from a dream and looked a little flustered. She raised her head and glanced at the martial Tao prime body before retracting her gaze hurriedly and turning to Su Zimo and Yun Zhu. Yun Zhu smiled and held Mo Qing's hand gently, saying to the martial Tao prime body, "Fellow Taoist desolate marshal, I can't thank you enough for saving me this time round. Let's meet again if we're fated." "Yes." The martial Tao prime body nodded slightly without any expression beneath his silver mask. It was not that he was pretending to be cold. It was just that the book immortal, Yun Zhu, was too smart. If he spoke too much, it was inevitable that he would reveal some flaws. "Right." Suddenly, the martial Tao prime body thought of something and said, "Both fellow Taoists, please don't spread the secret of Avicii and my affairs." "I won't." Mo Qing said immediately, "I can swear that I won't reveal a single word." Yun Zhu was stunned for a moment before swearing that she would not spread it as well. The reason why she did not express her stance right away was because Desolate Marshal's words sounded strange to her. They were clearly standing together and Desolate Marshal's words were directed at the three of them. However, Desolate Marshal only said both fellow Taoists. It was understandable for him to say that. Excluding Su Zimo could naturally be explained as a deep friendship and trust between the two of them. However, Yun Zhu could vaguely sense that there was more to it. She did not have much time to think and entered the spatial tunnel with Su Zimo and Mo Qing, leaving Avicii. Before long, a crack appeared above Azura Monastery and Su Zimo and the other two fell from it. Yun Zhu's poison injuries had yet to recover. Mo Qing wrapped her arms around Yun Zhu's slender waist and descended steadily. Avicii was sinister and dark everywhere. The atmosphere was tense and one could encounter danger at any moment. After leaving Avicii, the three of them felt relieved as though they had seen the light of day once more. Su Zimo took a deep breath of air and an endless stream of heaven and earth essence qi surged into his body as though it was corporeal. It was like dew after a long drought as the green lotus true body absorbed heaven and earth essence qi wildly, nourishing his flesh, tendons, bones and essence spirit. Su Zimo was at the peak of a grade 2 heaven immortal and had been stuck for many years. Although he had a large number of cultivation resources, he could not break through the bottleneck. On this trip to hell, not only did he save the martial Tao prime body, he even obtained treasures such as the Saraka fruit and Ashoka tree trunk. He also obtained the inheritance of Emperor Ananda and comprehended 2 dermic seals of the Buddhist monasteries. Everything happened naturally as heaven and earth essence qi surged into his body continuously, forming a torrent that broke through the barrier. Su Zimo's aura surged and he broke through to the level 3 heaven essence realm within a few breaths after leaving Avicii. His essence spirit had already reached the peak of the level 5 heaven essence realm. The dragon phoenix and green lotus essence spirits were fused together and he cultivated the incomplete taboo mystic classic. His essence spirit realm had always surpassed his cultivation by 2 minor realms. Now that he cultivated the complete Prajna Nirvana Sutra, Su Zimo's essence spirit became even more condensed. If he continued cultivating, there was even a chance for his essence spirit to surpass him by 3 minor realms in the heaven essence realm. After Su Zimo broke through, he released his spirit consciousness and scanned the vicinity. A moment later, he retracted his spirit consciousness and was slightly disappointed. He did not see any traces of Prince Yuanzhua. This time round, on the side of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, only perfected immortal Jingyu entered Avicii and Prince Yuanzhua did not follow. That was the reason why Su Zimo thought that Prince Yuanzhua might still be nearby. From the looks of it, Prince Yuanzhua might have sensed that something was amiss and escaped from this place. Congratulations. Yun Zhu smiled gently. Su Zimo smiled as well. He looked at Yun Zhu's feet and asked, "How are your injuries?" "It's fine now," Yun Zhu said. "Once I return to the Zixian Immortal Kingdom and recuperate for a period of time, I'll be able to recover to normal." After saying that, their gazes seemed to meet casually. Yun Zhu could not help but recall the scene in Avicii. At that time, Su Zimo was carrying her on his back and their bodies were almost touching. There were only a few layers of cloth between them and it was extremely intimate. Back then, the situation was critical and they were in hell. While it was a little embarrassing, it was nothing much considering the emergency. Now that she thought about it, Yun Zhu could not help but feel strange. He. Right then, a strange laughter sounded. It was distant and close at the same time, erratic and sinister. "We've waited for so long. To think that our opportunities would fall on these three juniors." Another voice sounded. A third voice sighed faintly. "Although the price is a little high, no matter what, it has finally arrived." Chapter 2353, 2353 8 Heavenly Kings. 2353 8 Heavenly Kings. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Yun Zhu had a grim expression as well. She had long suspected that there seemed to be an invisible hand behind this matter that was killing many cultivators. To think that the three of them would be targeted the moment they came out of Avicii. Furthermore, from their tone, they did not seem friendly. Right then, 8 figures appeared out of thin air around the three of them and walked over slowly. In the blink of an eye, they arrived before them. All 8 of them wore monk robes and should be from the pure land of bliss. They were extremely old and looked lethargic. Slapping her storage bag, Mo Qing took out her destiny painting book and opened it, prepared to tear off the painting paper at any moment. Now that they had left Avicii and her essence spirit was not restricted, Mo Qing could release her complete strength as a perfected immortal. Mo Qing had poured all her effort into this painting book. Yun Zhu had once said that if Mo Qing was truly enraged and tore all the paintings on the painting book, the living beings inside would be released and that would be a terrifying army. Even if the remaining 3 great fairies joined forces, they would have to avoid her. "Junior, give up. Your methods are child's play in front of us," a monk said indifferently. At the same time, the void behind the monk collapsed and a grotto heaven appeared. It shone with a Buddhist light and Sanskrit sounded with a terrifying aura. "Heavenly King of the Buddhist monasteries." The expressions of the 2 fairies changed starkly. A heavenly king of the Buddhist monasteries was equivalent to an immortal king. Only a king realm expert could release a grotto heaven. The painting book in Mo Qing's hands fluttered one after another, as though it could sense the powerful aura of the grotto heaven behind the heavenly king and was trembling slightly. Boom! The void behind another monk collapsed as well, revealing a grotto heaven. A second heavenly king of the Buddhist monasteries. A series of explosions shook the world as the 8 monks propped up their grotto heavens and surrounded Su Zimo and the other 2. Even the might released by a grotto heaven was enough to suppress perfected immortals and heaven immortals, let alone 8 grotto heavens opening at the same time. The divine might rumbled in an unstoppable manner. Mo Qing could still hold on, but Yun Zhu was injured and could not. Against the might of the 8 grotto heavens, Su Zimo's body swayed and he could buckle at any moment as well. "What are the 8 of you trying to do?" Su Zimo grit his teeth and asked slowly. A heavenly king smiled. "That's right. As long as the 3 of you juniors are obedient and tell me everything you know in Avicii, you don't have to suffer." Suddenly, Yun Zhu asked, "Were you the ones who released the news about Avicii?" The 8 heavenly kings lowered their heads in silence. Yun Zhu continued, "Your lifespans are almost up, so you want to obtain the opportunities and treasures in Avicii to extend your lives. However, you guys are too cowardly and cherish your lives too much. You don't dare to enter Avicii personally either, afraid that you won't be able to come out after entering. That's why you guys spread the news to lure cultivators from all over the place into Avicii. As long as someone can leave, you guys can do the same after you force out a solution and obtain an opportunity in Avicii. Suddenly, a heavenly king smiled. You're very smart, girl. Since things had come to this, there was no need to hide anything. The heavenly king continued, only, we've waited in the vicinity for a long time. Over the past few days, there have been around 170,000 cultivators who entered Avicii. However, only the 3 of you can leave alive. I believe that something extremely interesting must have happened to the 3 of you. This might involve some secrets of Avicii. Surveying his surroundings, Su Zimo looked at the 8 heavenly kings with a cold gaze and said in a deep voice, therefore, in order to extend your lives, the 8 of you did not hesitate to kill 170,000 cultivators. Aren't you guys afraid of karma at this point of your Buddha cultivation? Junior, watch your tone. A heavenly king said coldly, these cultivators entered Avicii because of their greed. What has their karma got to do with us? That's right. Another heavenly king said, if the 8 of us can successfully extend our lives, even if they die, it will be a worthy death. The pure land of bliss will have 8 more heavenly kings in the future and can protect even more living beings. Fufu. Su Zimo laughed, his eyes filled with mockery. Therefore, in your hearts, the lives of the 8 of you are more precious than the 170,000 living beings. Isn't it? A heavenly king asked instead. We're heavenly kings. Even in our twilight years, we're still heavenly kings. What about you guys and those people? In our eyes, you guys are merely ants. Karma? What can the karma of ants inflict upon us? How laughable. A heavenly king asked, tell me, what did the 3 of you experience in Avicii and how did you leave? If you tell the truth, you might have a chance to survive. Mo Qing shook her head with a resolute expression. I've already sworn that I won't reveal a single word of Avicii. You guys don't have to waste your efforts. Su Zimo and Yun Zhu remained silent as well. Don't blame us for being nasty then. A heavenly king pointed at Su Zimo and said coldly, search his soul first. If it fails, bring the 2 women into Avicii. Since the 3 of them can leave alive, it means that there's definitely a teleportation dermic formulation in Avicii. The other heavenly kings had no objections. Su Zimo's question earlier on disgusted the heavenly kings. Even if the soul search failed and Su Zimo was crippled, they would not lose anything. 8 grotto heavens were opened at the same time and Su Zimo was only a grade 3 heaven immortal. Even with his grade 11 green lotus true body, he could not move at all against the might of the 8 heavenly kings. The difference between them was too great. Sigh. Right then, a sigh sounded from the side. The 8 heavenly kings frowned and looked over. Not far away from them, a withered old monk with long brows stood and looked over expressionlessly through his cloudy eyes. The expressions of the 8 heavenly kings changed slightly and their hearts skipped a beat. The long-browed old monk looked much older than them, as though he was already half dead. However, none of them noticed when the long-browed old monk appeared here. Tomb Keeper. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat when he saw the long-browed old monk. Who are you? When did you arrive? A heavenly king asked in a deep voice. Although the long-browed old monk only looked like he had the cultivation of a black immortal, if he was only a black immortal, he would not have been able to hide from the senses of the 8 of them and arrive here silently. The long-browed old monk said indifferently, I've been here the entire time. The pupils of the 8 heavenly kings constricted. If what the long-browed old monk said was true, it would be even more terrifying. This meant that they had not discovered the long-browed old monk even after descending here. Chapter 2354, 2354 Protecting Whose Tomb? 2354 Protecting Whose Tomb? Fellow Taoist, are you preparing to head to Avicii as well? A heavenly king said in a deep voice, if that's the case, why don't we join forces? The 8 heavenly kings could not see through the background of the tomb keeper and did not dare to act rashly. One of them took the initiative to rope him in. The tomb keeper sighed gently. You're all people who are about to die. Why struggle? Just find an empty tomb around you and rest in peace. Right then, the expressions of the 8 heavenly kings changed. Unknowingly, they were surrounded by tombs that were densely packed and arranged in an endless manner. Azura Monastery and Great Tai Wei Mountain seemed to have vanished. It was as though they were in an endless cemetery with a deathly aura around them. It was dusky and filled with ghost flames that sent chills down one's spine. This is an illusion? A ray formation? The 8 heavenly kings were bewildered. Crack. 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 Right then, a series of cracks sounded from the grotto heavens behind the 8 heavenly kings and they began to collapse rapidly. Ah! This is bad, that's the power of the world. We've already fallen into his world. Only after entering the Emperor realm would the grotto heaven transform and become a world of its own. Emperor Bo Sun's heaven of the great fiend was a world he created. Although there was only a major cultivation realm difference between the Emperor realm and the grotto heaven realm, there was an unimaginable difference. Even 100 or 1,000 immortal kings could not defend against a single emperor. All grotto heavens of king realm experts had to shatter in the worlds backed by the emperors. He's an emperor. The 8 heavenly kings exclaimed and released all their methods without hesitation. Their blood chi surged and they released their destiny dermic treasures and various talismans. In the face of the emperor, the 8 heavenly kings did not even have the courage to resist and fled in all directions. The tomb keeper walked slowly towards a heavenly king and murmured, "Don't run. I'll collect your corpse." The moment he said that, the heavenly king paused and his body stiffened. As though he had suffered a huge blow, his life force deteriorated rapidly. The person's head tilted and he fell from midair. Although the tomb keeper looked slow, he arrived beside the person at the appropriate moment and caught the latter's corpse, tossing it into an empty tomb. Time to collect the corpses. The tomb keeper turned and looked at the back of another heavenly king, saying softly. The heavenly king shuddered and in the blink of an eye, death filled his body. He died and fell into the same empty tomb. Su Zimo, Mo Qing and Yun Zhu were shocked and they saw that. The heavenly kings of the Buddhist monasteries, experts who were almost at the peak of the upper world, were like ants in front of the tomb keeper. The tomb keeper did not attack at all. With just a single sentence, a heavenly king died. Who exactly are you? Unable to withstand it, a heavenly king broke down mentally and stopped, roaring at the tomb keeper. The tomb keeper turned to look at the heavenly king with a dark glint in his eyes. Instantly, the heavenly king's eyes froze and he fell limply into the empty tomb, dead. A single gaze was enough to kill a heavenly king. Pust. Su Zimo and the other two felt chills run down their bodies. What sort of methods were those? In the blink of an eye, only 3 of the 8 heavenly kings were left. However, the cemetery was boundless and the 8 heavenly kings could not escape at all. This was the world of the tomb keeper. Look, there's an exit there. A heavenly king pointed to a dark abyss not far away and roared. That's Avicii. Another heavenly king reacted and shuddered. Although the tomb keeper's world covered the skies and enveloped this place, it could not envelope Avicii as well. Therefore, there was indeed an exit in this world. The entrance to Avicii. So what if it's Avicii? A heavenly king's face was pale as he grit his teeth. There's still a chance of survival if we escape into Avicii. We'll definitely die in the hands of this person. Let's go. Without hesitation, the 3 heavenly kings leaped into Avicii. The tomb keeper looked at the backs of the 3 of them and shook his head gently, sighing. I'm old and my legs aren't nimble. I can't chase anymore. As he said that, he walked into the distance without even looking at Su Zimo and the other 2. Unknowingly, the sinister cemetery from earlier on had already vanished. Su Zimo and the other two were still standing in the ruins of Azura Monastery. There were no changes to their surroundings, and the 5 dead Buddhist heavenly kings were nowhere to be seen. "Thank you, Senior." Yunju was the first to react and wanted to thank him. However, she stopped before she could finish. The moment they were distracted, the long-browed old monk vanished as well. It was as though what the 3 of them experienced earlier was a dream and an illusion without any traces left behind. Corpses, fresh blood and fights, nothing was left behind. However, the 3 of them knew that it was definitely not a hallucination. They had truly survived an assassination attempt from the Heavenly Kings. Su Zimo and the other 2 exchanged glances, feeling as though they just had a close brush with death. "Who was that, Senior?" Mo Qing asked. Su Zimo shook his head gently. "I only know that he calls himself the Tomb Keeper, but I don't know his background." He had once guessed that this Tomb Keeper was not simple. However, he had not expected that the Tomb Keeper would be so strong that he was on the same level as Emperor Bo Sun. Su Zimo and Mo Qing looked at Yunju at the same time. As the book immortal, Yunju had a deep understanding of the heavenly world and its history. Yunju frowned in deep thought. After reminiscing for a long time, she shook her head. "I don't have any impression of him. I've never heard of this Senior either." "Tomb Keeper." Su Zimo murmured softly and looked at Tai Wei Mountain in the distance. Actually, he had thought of a bold possibility. The gigantic tomb guarded by the Tomb Keeper might belong to Emperor Bo Sun. That was because back then, Emperor Bo Sun was sent here and everyone thought that he had died here. However, Emperor Bo Sun had already left alive. Why was the Tomb Keeper still here? Tomb Keeper, Tomb Keeper. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly thought of an even more terrifying guess. In a sense, Avicii could be considered as a cemetery as well. Furthermore, there was an unprecedented peerless expert buried within, the Infinite Great Emperor. Could he be guarding the tomb of the Infinite Great Emperor? The Tomb Keeper of the Infinite Great Emperor. That guess was way too terrifying and could shock the world. However, Su Zimo denied that thought on second thought. That was impossible. The Infinite Great Emperor had died for many years and countless years had passed. Even the Longevity Great Emperor had passed away a long time ago. Who could survive till now? Su Zimo shook his head gently and gradually let go of those distracting thoughts. No matter what, the Tomb Keeper did not seem to have any enmity towards the 3 of them. Chapter 2355, 2355 Karma. 2355 Karma. Yunju said, regarding the identity of this Tomb Keeper, "I have to go back and ask my father. I'll also head to the library to read some ancient books and information to see if there are any records of this person. We can't linger here. Let's leave first." Su Zimo said in a deep voice. Although the Tomb Keeper had long vanished without a trace, the 3 of them still felt uneasy. The 3 of them moved immediately and before long, they arrived at the teleportation formation closest to this place. Su Zimo looked at Yunju. "I'm going the same way as Senior Sister Mo Qing. After you, fellow Daoist." Yunju did not decline and smiled gently, cupping her fists. "I was lucky to get to know you 2 fellow Taoists on this trip to hell and I'm delighted. I wonder when we'll meet again after this separation." After leaving Avicii, the weakness on Yunju seemed to have vanished. Instead, she looked more heroic and carefree. Although the 4 great fairies had long been renowned in the heavenly world, they did not have much interaction with one another, let alone know one another. Although this period of time in Avicii was not long, the 2 fairies naturally had a deeper relationship after experiencing such tribulations together. Furthermore, they could understand the other party's character and temperament from this experience. Mo Qing was not good with words and merely held Yunju's palm gently with a hint of reluctance in her beautiful eyes. Up till this point of her cultivation, she did not have many friends. However, after today, Mo Qing viewed Yunju as her only confidant. Not only did I get to know a sister for this trip to hell, I even seem to have met. Mo Qing lowered her head slightly as her imagination ran wild. We'll meet again. Su Zimo said, everything else aside, the Divine Firmament Immortal Meet is still the greatest event in the Divine Firmament Immortal domain where all major sects and factions will gather. Mo Qing's eyes lit up and she nodded repeatedly. Su Zimo looked at Yunju and smiled. At that time, I'll have to fight with your brother for the top of the heaven ranking. You won't be absent, right? Initially, I had no intention of watching the battle. Yunju smiled and said meaningfully, however, since you're the one fighting with Yunting, I can't miss it. As she spoke, she looked at Su Zimo with sparkling and resplendent eyes. Su Zimo was a little defeated and averted his gaze, coughing gently. It'll be fine as long as you don't get angry if I bash Yunting up. Yunju smiled. He has a proud personality. It'll be good if he can suffer some setbacks. Mo Qing added, initially, I didn't really like these grand events. I always felt that it was too noisy with too many people. However, if you're willing to go, sister, I'll go take a look as well. Alright, let's part ways here today. We'll talk again in the future. Yunju cupped her fists in farewell and turned to enter the teleportation formation, leaving in a carefree manner. Senior sister, let's go too. Su Zimo said and entered the teleportation formation. Mo Qing nodded and entered as well. The two of them activated the teleportation formation and returned to Heaven and Earth Academy. Avicii. The three Buddhist heavenly kings felt as though they had descended upon a gigantic and complicated maze with tunnels everywhere. Some of the tunnels were dead ends while others led to even more tunnels. The three heavenly kings could not get out of this place and circled around it continuously. That was not the most terrifying thing. What was even more frightening was that there were strange ants in this tunnel that once formed a small-scale ant swarm that attacked them. The three heavenly kings joined forces and barely managed to hold out. However, they could not use their essence spirits here and could only rely on their physiques and blood qi. If a few more such ant swarms arrived, they would not be able to last long. Furthermore, those ants were getting stronger. They merely felt itchy when the ants that first appeared bit them. However, in the end, there were already ants that could bite through their flesh. If there were tens of millions of such ants gathered in a group, the three of them would probably be gnawed to death in less than 15 minutes. The three heavenly kings scurried everywhere in the maze but could not find a way out. Before long, the three heavenly kings arrived at the end of a tunnel. The three of them could only turn back. However, the moment they turned around, they saw a gigantic ant swarm surging towards them like an unstoppable black torrent. Ah! With nowhere to retreat, the three heavenly kings roared and channeled their blood qi, fighting with all their might. However, the three of them seemed incomparably tiny against the black torrent. In just a few breaths, their figures were drowned. The three of them were covered in hell ants that gnawed at their flesh continuously. In the blink of an eye, the three of them were covered in injuries and blood gushed out. The roars of the three of them gradually turned deep and tragic. Their blood qi deteriorated rapidly. Even heavenly king experts could not defend against the encirclement of so many living beings from hell. Furthermore, the three heavenly kings were in their twilight years. Just as they were in despair, the black torrent on their bodies retreated rapidly and disappeared before long. The three of them could only lie on the ground and could not even stand. Many parts of their bodies were gnawed by the hell ants, revealing white bones in a shocking manner. Their organs were riddled with holes by the hell ants. What's going on? What happened? The three heavenly kings panted heavily and tried their best to raise their heads, wanting to see what was going on. Through their blurry vision, two figures walked over slowly from the other end of the tunnel. Their leader wore purple robes and a silver mask. He was like an emissary from the depths of hell and exuded a sinister and terrifying aura. It was as though the appearance of this person was the reason why the terrifying ants disappeared. A young monk followed behind the purple-robed man. Why, you're a disciple of Vesa Monastery. When a heavenly king saw the monk robes on the young monk, He recognized his background and tried his best to extend his arm, panting. I'm Heavenly King Bukong of Vesa Monastery. Save me. As a Heavenly King of Vesa Monastery, there was naturally no way he would know an ordinary disciple like the young monk. However, he believed that any disciple of Vesa Monastery would definitely recognize him. The young monk lowered his head in silence. Fellow Taoist, save us. The other Heavenly King struggled and crawled slowly, wanting to approach the purple-robed man. Suddenly, the purple-robed man spoke, I've asked before. Aren't you guys afraid of karma at this point of your Buddha cultivation? The three Heavenly Kings were stunned. That sentence did sound familiar, as though they had heard it somewhere not long ago. However, the three of them were severely injured by the attack of the hell ants and the pain was unbearable. Their minds were in a mess and they could not recall anything at the moment. All right, I'll let you guys die in peace. As the purple-robed man said that, he reached out and removed his mask, revealing a refined face. It's you. The pupils of the three Heavenly Kings constricted as though they had seen a ghost. At that moment, the purple-robed man before them gave them even more fear than the ants in hell. The martial Tao prime body put on his silver mask once more and turned to leave, saying indifferently, the cycle of karma is not good. Right in front of the three Heavenly Kings, the figure of the martial Tao prime body gradually disappeared at the end of the tunnel. Before long, their vision was occupied by the black torrent once more. Chapter 2356, 2356 Return. 2356 Return. Heaven and Earth Academy. In a secret chamber on the top floor of a secret pavilion, a medicinal fragrance wafted. Old Xian assumed a lotus position on the couch and closed his eyes to recuperate. He looked slightly pale and his aura was weak. All of a sudden, someone suddenly appeared in the secret chamber. It was the sect master of the academy. How do you feel after recuperating for a few days? The sect master of the academy asked. I won't die just yet. Without opening his eyes, old Xian asked casually, any news of that lad, Su Zimo? He should have already entered hell, but his fate is unknown, the sect master of the academy replied. Have any living beings come forth from Avicii in the past few days? Old Xian asked again. No. The sect master of the academy shook his head gently. You don't seem worried? Although old Xian did not open his eyes to look, he seemed to be able to read the sect master of the academy's mind. It's useless to worry. The sect master of the academy said, furthermore, I just divined a divination for Su Zimo. It seems like he's managed to turn his misfortunes into blessings. That's good. Old Xian nodded. The secret chamber went silent once more. A moment later, old Xian suddenly asked, did you manage to find out anything about that long-browed old monk? I'm not sure. I can't divine him at all. The sect master of the academy shook his head gently. It's normal that you can't divine someone who can see through my grotto heaven with a single glance. After saying that, old Xian did not ask further and continued recuperating. After a while, the sect master of the academy turned to leave when he saw that old Xian did not say anything. It was only then that old Xian opened his eyes slowly and looked in the direction where the sect master of the academy disappeared expressionlessly. He looked for a while in deep thought. A long time later, old Xian took a deep breath and continued healing with his eyes closed. Inner sect of the academy, Qingyun's cave abode. Fang Qingyun sat in the middle and rubbed his glabella gently in deep thought. Senior brother Fang, is there anything on your mind? Not far away, the person who asked was an inner sect disciple of the academy, a grade 6 heaven immortal named Chang Qi. He was usually very close to Fang Qingyun. Fang Qingyun was indeed troubled and frustrated over something. A few days ago, he received a message from Prince Yuanzhua that the 4 major factions were annihilated and even Tang Peng died on Great Tai Wei Mountain. Su Zimo fled into Avicii and the others chased after him. There was no news of them for the past few days and they were most likely dead. Furthermore, as time passed by, the various factions of the heavenly world gradually realized that none of the cultivators who entered Avicii survived. Many experts gradually realized that Avicii might be a trap and forbade disciples from exploring further. If Su Zimo had fled into Avicii, he should have died. However, the price this time round was way too great. Tang Peng had followed him for many years in the inner sect. To think that he would die outside this time round. At the same time that he was sad, Fang Qingyun felt relieved. Initially, he thought that the alliance of the four factions would definitely be foolproof against a grade 2 heaven immortal. That was the reason why he did not follow them. To think that that single thought would save his life instead. However, Fang Qingyun could not tell anyone about this. Tang Peng's death could not be blamed on anyone since he joined forces with outsiders to deal with his fellow disciple. However, Fang Qingyun might be implicated if the Grand Elder heard about this. How is Yang Ruoxu? He's not dead yet? Fang Qingyun asked with a frown. Since Su Zimo was already dead, it was useless to keep Yang Ruoxu alive. Yang Ruoxu knew that he had joined forces with outsiders. The fact that Yang Ruoxu was still alive was a threat to him. Chang Qi said, I haven't found any suitable opportunities during this period of time. Lu Ping and Princess Scarlet Rainbow have been guarding Yang Ruoxu's cave abode. Even if someone leaves to collect some sect resources, one of them will stay. Both of them are inner sect disciples and we can't barge in either. Humph. Fang Qingyun said, if there's no chance, won't you create one? If I'm not wrong, you should be cultivating the Academy's Righteousness Sutra as well, right? Yes, we are. Chang Qi nodded. When Fang Qingyun saw that Chang Qi still did not understand, he could not help but frown. Yang Ruoxu is now a cripple. If the righteousness sword is still with him, it's equivalent to a pearl covered in dust. Go and get it back. Understood. Chang Qi's eyes lit up. I'll go right away. Suddenly, two beams of light shone from the teleportation formation of Heaven and Earth Academy. Immediately after, a man and woman appeared on the teleportation formation. It was Su Zimo and Fairy Mo Qing who had returned from the pure land of bliss. Where are you going? Mo Qing turned to look at Su Zimo. Su Zimo said deeply, I'm prepared to make a trip to senior brother Yang Ruoxu's place. I have to send the Soraka fruit over as soon as possible. What happened to him? Mo Qing asked. Su Zimo was surprised and asked, Senior sister, you don't know about this? Mo Qing shook her head gently. On second thought, Su Zimo recalled that senior sister Mo Qing spent most of her time in seclusion painting and was indifferent to everything in the academy. It was only normal that she did not know about Yang Ruoxu's situation. At the very least, that could prove one thing. There was indeed nothing between Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu. Otherwise, there was no way Mo Qing would not know that Yang Ruoxu was severely injured. Senior brother Yang was encircled and severely injured. His essence spirit is damaged and only the Soraka fruit can heal him. Su Zimo said, the reason why I headed to Avicii this time round was to search for the Soraka fruit. Oh. Mo Qing replied casually, as though she was not concerned about this matter. She nodded and said, go on then. What about you, senior sister? Su Zimo asked. Mo Qing said, I'm returning to my cave abode. Pausing momentarily, she pondered for a moment and continued, if you encounter anything in the future or have any doubts regarding the Tao, you can look for me at the legacy ground. Ah. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. Those did not seem like words that senior sister Mo Qing would say. Given senior sister Mo Qing's character, why would she take the initiative to invite others to her cave abode? Even Sword Immortal Yu Hua did not receive such treatment. Just as Su Zimo was puzzled, Fairy Mo Qing had already turned to leave. She flew through the air and shuttled through the clouds. Sparkles rose from her socks and the ice butterfly danced around her. The woman and butterfly seemed to have fused with the surrounding nature and were graceful. Junior brother Su is a junior from the same sect after all. Furthermore, We've experienced this calamity together and it's only right for me to take care of him in the future. Fairy Mo Ching whispered, moreover, junior brother Su has a deep relationship with that, fellow Taoist. At the thought of that person, Fairy Mo Ching suddenly recalled something and said reproachfully, little butterfly, why did you fly around fellow Taoist desolate marshal to cause trouble when he appeared? You're not like that usually. It's strange. The ice butterfly said crisply, I can also sense the aura of our demon emperor from that person. Could I have sensed wrongly? The ice butterfly's puzzled voice sounded. Chapter 2357, 2357 You're worthy? 2357 You're worthy? The surroundings of Yang Ruoxu's cave abode were still dilapidated and overgrown with weeds, as though it had been abandoned for a long time. Su Zimo went forward and knocked gently on the door. No visitors allowed. Before long, a slightly tender voice sounded from within, clearly enraged. Go away, go away. It's me. Su Zimo said in a deep voice. The cave abode was silent for a moment before the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard. The door to the cave abode opened and a child's face appeared. It was Lu Ping. Senior brother Su. Lu Ping's eyes lit up as he shouted. Su Zimo smiled and nodded. As he walked in, he asked, how's senior brother Yang? At the mention of Yang Ruoxu, Lu Ping's face darkened once more. Senior brother Yang's essence spirit is getting weaker and he's been asleep for 3 days without waking up. I don't think he can hold on for much longer. Thereafter, he blinked again. If not for senior sister Scarlet Rainbow's meticulous care during this period of time, senior brother Yang might have died a long time ago. Lu Ping's words seemed to be implying something. However, Su Zimo was worried about Yang Ruoxu and did not think too much about it. Before long, the two of them arrived before Yang Ruoxu's bed. Princess Scarlet Rainbow and a boy were guarding him. She held Yang Ruoxu's hand with a worried expression. When she saw Su Zimo return, Princess Scarlet Rainbow merely forced a smile and nodded. Yang Ruoxu's face was pale and he was unconscious with a weak life force. Without hesitation, Su Zimo took out the Soraka fruit from his storage bag and came before Yang Ruoxu's couch. He placed the Soraka fruit beside Yang Ruoxu's mouth and scratched it gently with his fingernails. A crack appeared on the Soraka fruit and a rich fruit juice with a unique fragrance flowed slowly into Yang Ruoxu's mouth. This is... Princess Scarlet Rainbow and the other two had strange expressions. Although the three of them knew that Su Zimo was heading to Avicii to look for the Soraka fruit, they did not have much hope. This is the Soraka fruit. Su Zimo said and frowned slightly when he saw Yang Ruoxu's expression. Yang Ruoxu had already consumed the entire Soraka fruit. However, his condition showed no signs of improvement. Actually, Su Zimo did not know much about the Soraka fruit. Legend has it that the Soraka fruit could heal essence spirits that were severely injured. However, this Soraka fruit had been buried in Avicii for so many years after all. Nobody knew if it still had the effect of healing the essence spirit. What's going on? Even the Soraka fruit can't do it? Princess Scarlet Rainbow was flustered and her voice trembled. Su Zimo released his spirit consciousness and scanned Yang Ruoxu's body carefully, saying in a low voice, Senior brother Yang's essence spirit has been injured for too long and his body is severely injured as well. Even after he consumes the Soraka fruit, his body won't be able to refine and absorb the power within. We can inject heaven and earth essence chi into his body to help him absorb it. Princess Scarlet Rainbow's reaction was extremely fast and she thought of this method right away. Su Zimo nodded. Princess Scarlet Rainbow circulated heaven and earth essence chi and channeled it carefully into Yang Ruoxu's body. However, after a while, Yang Ruoxu's condition did not show any signs of improvement. What should we do? Princess Scarlet Rainbow was at a loss. Let me give it a try. Su Zimo extended his finger and touched Yang Ruoxu's glabella gently, injecting a stream of pure and rich essence chi. Before long, young Ruoxu's face regained some color and the life force in his body gradually stabilized. It's working. Princess Scarlet was delighted. When Su Zimo saw that young Ruoxu's breathing was gradually steady and strong, he relaxed and heaved a sigh of relief. He was the green lotus true body, and the heaven and earth essence chi in his body was far purer and more condensed than Princess Scarlet Rainbow. Furthermore, the creation green lotus was a god of the flora race to begin with and could naturally absorb and refine the Soraka fruit with ease. Although young Ruoxu's condition had stabilized, he showed no signs of waking up. Su Zimo did not stop what he was doing and continued to channel heaven and earth essence chi to help young Ruoxu absorb the Soraka fruit. Dong! 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 Right then, a violent knock sounded outside the cave abode. To be precise, it no longer seemed like he was knocking on the door, he was practically ramming down the door. Due to the tremendous impact outside, the entire cave abode trembled slightly and dust fell from above. It must be those people again. The boy said hatefully. Fang Qingyun? Su Zimo asked with a frown. Lu Ping said, Fang Qingyun has not shown himself the entire time. However, during this period of time, almost all the people who came to cause trouble were his followers. These people are always looking for all sorts of excuses to visit senior brother Yang. Actually, they have evil intentions. Dong! 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 The sound of the door slamming sounded once more, intensifying. Su Zimo was still helping young Ruoxu refine the Soraka fruit and could not leave for the time being. Lu Ping stood up and said, I'll chase them away. Lu Ping and young Ruoxu's boy headed outside. Go away, our young master rejects all guests. The boy shouted. Is this how senior brother Yang treats his fellow sect mates? If you don't open the door, don't blame me for destroying this cave abode. A voice traveled into the cave abode. Chang-Chi, how dare you barge into senior brother Yang's cave abode without his permission? Lu Ping recognized the person's voice and hollered. Fu-fu. Chang-Chi chuckled. Senior brother Yang is severely injured. We came to visit, but you guys refused to let us see him. Now, I suspect that senior brother Yang has already been killed by you guys. For the sake of senior brother Yang's safety, the sect won't hold me accountable even if I barge into the cave abode. You! The boy was furious. Lu Ping said in a deep voice, we will definitely not open the cave abode. You guys can head back. Then don't blame me for being rude. Chang-Chi said coldly. Immediately after, a tremendous force struck the door of the cave abode. Boom! With a loud bang, the door to the cave abode shattered and scattered onto the ground, creating dust clouds. Chang-Chi brought a few inner sect disciples and 100 servants of the academy with him. All of them had hostile expressions as they barged in. How dare you! Lu Ping was shocked and furious as he clenched his fists with widened eyes. You're not allowed to go over. The boy extended his arms and stopped Chang-Chi and the others as well. You guys are so nervous. Seems like young Ruoxu isn't dead yet? Chang-Chi raised his brows slightly and said leisurely, however, even if he's not dead, he's still a cripple. It's fine if you don't let me in. Hand young Ruoxu's righteousness sword over to me. On what grounds? The boy questioned loudly. Young Ruoxu is already a cripple and is not worthy of using the righteousness sword. Chang-Chi declared proudly, I've also cultivated the righteousness sutra. In the academy, I'm the only one qualified to wield the righteousness sword. The boy sneered with disdain. Chang-Chi narrowed his gaze and said coldly, slap him. How dare a kid like you mock disciples of the academy? Immediately, more than 10 servants stood out and cursed. They swarmed forward and restrained the boy, giving him a few tight slaps on the face. Instantly, the boy's cheeks swelled. However, he did not give in and merely glared at Chang-Chi fiercely. Just as Lu Ping was about to move, Chang-Chi released a tremendous spirit consciousness pressure and suppressed Lu Ping on the spot. Lu Ping was only a grade 1 heaven immortal while Chang-Chi was a grade 6 heaven immortal. The difference between them was too great and Lu Ping could not defend against it at all. Let's go. Chang-Chi waved his hand and prepared to lead his men in. Right then, a voice sounded from the cave abode. Someone like you is worthy of using the righteousness sword? A green-robed cultivator walked over from the cave abode. Chapter 2358, 2358 Whoever wants it, come and take it. 2358 Whoever wants it, come and take it. Su Zimo. When Chang-Chi saw who it was, his expression changed and he let out a look of disbelief. What's going on? Isn't he already dead? The inner sect disciples beside Chang-Chi whispered with bewildered expressions. Su Zimo helped Yang Ruoxu refine the power of the Soraka fruit completely. When he saw that Yang Ruoxu could circulate and recuperate on his own while his essence spirit was healing, he walked over towards Chang-Chi and the others who had barged into the cave abode. Su Zimo released a tremendous spirit consciousness pressure that surged over like a tide. Boom! Chang-Chi shuddered. Su Zimo's essence spirit had already reached the peak of a grade 5 heaven immortal. Coupled with the powerful condensation of his green lotus essence spirit, his spirit consciousness was definitely not weaker than Chang-Chi's. The pressure on Lu Ping vanished without a trace and he regained his freedom. Su Zimo's gaze landed on Yang Ruoxu's boy. His expression turned cold as he waved his sleeves casually. As though they were struck by lightning, the immortal servants shuddered and were sent flying instantly, spitting out blood. All of them smashed against the walls of the cave abode and rolled down in a wretched manner. The boy was still standing on the spot, safe and sound. Junior brother Su, what's the meaning of this? Chang-Chi's expression darkened as he asked slowly. Senior brother Chang, he's now the in-name disciple of the sect master. We should address him as senior brother Su, an inner sect disciple behind Chang-Chi reminded softly. Taking a deep breath of air, Chang-Chi had no choice but to change the way he addressed Su Zimo. Senior brother Su, when one beats a dog, one must answer to its master. You injured my men without even asking about the facts. You have to be accountable for it. Answer to the dog's master? Arriving before Chang-Chi, Su Zimo raised his hand without any warning and slapped Chang-Chi heavily on the face. Piak. I'll smack the master of the dogs as well. Su Zimo looked at Chang-Chi expressionlessly with a cold gaze. As though he was chasing away a servant, he spat out a single word, scram. Lu Ping and the boy almost clapped and cheered. They felt as though they had vented the grievances they had suffered for the past few days and were delighted. Chang-Chi was stunned for a moment. He had not expected that Su Zimo would dare to attack him directly in the inner sect of the academy. You! Chang-Chi reacted quickly and was enraged. To think that he would be humiliated by Su Zimo in front of a few inner sect disciples and many immortal servants. He felt his anger rush to his head and his eyes were bloodshot. He glared at Su Zimo and was about to step forward and fight. Senior brother Chang, don't be rash. Two inner sect disciples hurried forward and grabbed Chang-Chi's arm. What are you guys doing? Chang-Chi shouted. Su Zimo has already violated sect rules by attacking fellow sect mates in private in the academy. He can't blame me for being nasty. In terms of sect rules, you were the one who barged into senior brother Yang's cave abode first. Even if I cripple you now, the sect elders won't punish me. Su Zimo said coldly with a sinister tone. Chang-Chi could not help but shudder under Su Zimo's gaze. At that moment, Chang-Chi was overwhelmed by Su Zimo's aura. Even though he was a grade 6 heaven immortal, he felt guilty at the moment and he gradually calmed down. 1,000 years ago, the person before him condensed the 10th stone step of the Tao Heart Stairs. Not only were the 9 great elders alarmed, even the sect master of the academy appeared. There was even a legacy disciple who was completely crippled. Compared to that legacy disciple, he was only a grade 6 heaven immortal and was truly nothing. Given Su Zimo's status as an in-name disciple of the sect master, even if his cultivation realm was not high, who in the inner sect would dare to have a direct conflict with him? However, it was way too embarrassing to be slapped by Su Zimo in front of everyone. Chang Chi was still indignant. Chang Chi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Senior brother Su, I respect you as a senior brother of the academy and won't fight you. However, there's always a reason for everything. Yang Ruoxu is already a cripple. Why isn't he handing over the righteousness sword?" Su Zimo sneered, "Only an open and honest person is worthy of wielding the righteousness sword. Ask yourself if you're worthy of those words." Chang Chi was shocked. Su Zimo's words were extremely powerful and pointed to his Dao heart like a divine weapon. Chang Chi's expression was dark and he wanted to retreat. Right then, many academy disciples sped over from the distant horizon. It was a large crowd and there looked to be more than 10,000 of them. Their leader was Fang Qingyun. When the people from the academy at the teleportation formation relayed the news of Su Zimo's return to Fang Qingyun, he realized that something was amiss and gathered many inner sect disciples, rushing over in a grand manner. There were hundreds of thousands of inner sect disciples. Fang Qingyun had been in the inner sect for many years and was the number one of the inner sect. He was extremely famous and could gather thousands of inner sect disciples with a single wave of his arm. "Senior brother Su, how have you been?" Fang Qingyun cupped his fists with a smile. Although he was smiling, there were tens of thousands of inner sect disciples behind him after all. They were aggressive and clearly hostile. Su Zimo had an indifferent expression and did not return the greeting. "What's going on?" Fang Qingyun asked with a frown. Chang Chi recounted everything that happened in detail. When Fang Qingyun heard that, he looked at Su Zimo and said in a deep voice, "Senior brother Su, you were definitely in the wrong. Junior brother Yang's cultivation has already been crippled. Indeed, it's not suitable for him to retain the righteousness sword, causing this sword of the academy to rot in the dust. Even if Chang Chi isn't qualified to wield the righteousness sword, senior brother Yang should hand it over and return it to the sect for other fated people." Although Fang Qingyun's every word seemed fair from the perspective of the academy, he was actually still targeting Yang Ruoxu. Senior brother Fang is right. Senior brother Yang is about to die. Why is he retaining that sword? Senior brother Yang, aren't you way too selfish? Indeed, this sword should be returned to the sect. Hand over the righteousness sword. The many inner sect disciples behind Fang Qingyun spoke one after another, creating a commotion that formed an unstoppable might. Fang Qingyun had a faint smile on his face the entire time. He knew very well that Su Zimo was the in-name disciple of the sect master and was even superior to him in terms of status. Therefore, this matter had to be blown up. In fact, if it could reach the upper echelons of the academy and the legacy ground, he could make use of their power to exert pressure on Su Zimo. Even if an academy elder appeared, he wouldn't be able to say anything about this matter. Indeed, Yang Ruoxu was a cripple and was unsuitable to wield the righteousness sword. That was an irrefutable fact. Even though Su Zimo was the in-name disciple of the sect master, he could not reverse the tides. Against the torrential commotion, Su Zimo's expression was indifferent as he looked at Fang Qingyun with a hint of mockery. Fang Qingyun noticed Su Zimo's gaze and suddenly felt uneasy. Could I have miscalculated something? I don't think so. Fang Qingyun pondered carefully once more but could not find any flaws. The righteousness sword is in my hands. Whoever wants it, come and take it. Right then, a robust voice sounded from the cave. A man and woman walked out side by side alongside that voice. The woman was Princess Scarlet Rainbow while the man was Yang Ruoxu. At that moment, Yang Ruoxu did not look like he was severely injured or on the brink of death. Instead, he had a torrential aura and was surrounded by righteousness. Wielding the righteousness sword, he surveyed his surroundings with a lightning gaze. Many disciples were no match for him and none of them dared to meet his gaze. Chapter 2359, 2359 Tribulation Transcendence. 2359 Tribulation Transcendence. Yang Ruoxu cultivated the Righteousness Sutra and had always been open and honest. He was chivalrous and filled with righteousness. As for Fang Qingyun's group, although they spoke of benevolence and morality and said that they were doing it for the academy, they were actually scheming and had other motives. Now that Yang Ruoxu was out of seclusion and his injuries had healed, he was even better than before. Who would dare to take the righteousness sword in his hands? Who was qualified to obtain the righteousness sword? The Righteousness Sutra had been passed down for a long time. However, throughout history, there were not many people who cultivated it, and there were even less cultivators who could cultivate it to greater mastery. In this generation's academy, Yang Ruoxu was the only one who had cultivated the Righteousness Sutra successfully. Although Chang Qi claimed to have cultivated this sutra, in reality, he was only at the tip of the iceberg and could not unleash its true power. Nobody in the immortality cultivation world could guarantee that they had not done anything shameful. Who could guarantee that they had not done anything wrong? Who could guarantee that everything they did was honorable? Even in the entire academy, including the elders, Yang Ruoxu was the only one worthy of wielding the righteousness sword, let alone the inner sect. Fang Qingyun had not expected Yang Ruoxu's injuries to recover to his peak. All his plans collapsed the moment Yang Ruoxu came out of seclusion. There were more than 10,000 people, but they were like scattered sand. Although Fang Qingyun was an inner sect disciple, he was no match for Yang Ruoxu, who was wielding the righteousness sword. So, your injuries have already healed, junior brother Yang. Congratulations. Fang Qingyun was extremely adaptable and did not intend to fight Yang Ruoxu head-on. Instead, he took a step back and cupped his fists in congratulations. Yang Ruoxu glared at Fang Qingyun coldly without replying. Thereafter, he raised his head and looked at the skies with a stern expression. It was originally noon and the sun was blazing. However, at that moment, dark clouds gathered above the academy and the skies gradually darkened. This is... Fang Qingyun and the others were shocked, and they noticed that he's about to undergo tribulation transcendence. The moment that voice sounded, it was like a stone that caused 1,000 waves and the crowd exploded. Yang Ruoxu encountered such a calamity and actually benefited from it. He is taking the most critical step and is about to advance to the perfected one realm. It's not that easy. Throughout history, there have been many people who underwent tribulation transcendence. However, only 30% of them managed to survive the 6 of 9 heavenly tribulation and condense their Tao fruits to advance to the perfected one realm. No matter what, Yang Ruoxu has already come this far. Many people won't even have the chance to undergo tribulation transcendence. To think that senior brother Yang would be the first to undergo tribulation transcendence among the hundreds of thousands of fellow inner sect disciples. If he succeeds, senior brother Fang will be left behind as well. When he heard the discussions around him, Fang Qingyun's expression darkened. His eyes were filled with shock and jealousy. However, the phenomenon in the skies had already attracted everyone's attention and no one paid attention to him. Yang Ruoxu's figure rose slowly and everyone watched. In front of Mo Qing's cave abode in the legacy ground, a man stood with his hands behind his back. He was tall, had sharp brows and bright eyes with an extraordinary aura. It was Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Not far away, Fairy Mo Qing flew over. Sword Immortal Yu Hua hurried forward with a smile. Junior sister, I've been worried about you for the past few days. If you hadn't returned, would have been prepared to make a move to explore Avicii. Thank you for your concern, senior brother. Mo Qing nodded with an indifferent expression. Although she said it politely, it was as though they were thousands of kilometers apart and were even more distant than before. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression froze for a moment. However, he regained his smile quickly and asked, Junior sister, have you found what you were looking for on this trip to hell? Yes. Mo Qing replied distractedly. However, Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression changed as he asked with a frown, You obtained the Soraka fruit, junior sister? I didn't obtain the Soraka fruit. Mo Qing was surprised and puzzled as she shook his head gently, not understanding why Sword Immortal Yu Hua would have such a guess. That was indeed the truth. The Soraka fruit was taken away by Su Zimo. Sword Immortal Yu Hua heaved a sigh of relief and chuckled. I was thinking too much. Senior brother, if there's nothing else, I'll go back and rest first. Mo Qing said indifferently. Her words meant that she was sending him off. Naturally, Sword Immortal Yu Hua could tell. However, he did not leave and took the initiative to invite junior sister. Junior brother Yang of the inner sect is severely injured and won't be able to hold on for long. Let's go check on him together. Junior brother Yang? Mo Qing was confused and could not react in time. Continue pretending. Let's see how much longer you can pretend. Sword Immortal Yu Hua sneered internally but smiled. Junior brother Yang Ruoxu. Him? Mo Qing frowned slightly and shook her head. Senior brother, go on. I won't be going. In her opinion, she and Yang Ruoxu were just ordinary fellow sect mates and were not familiar with one another, so there was no need for her to take a look. Furthermore, junior brother Su had already sent the Soraka fruit over. Yang Ruoxu should not be in any danger. Initially, Sword Immortal Yu Hua wanted to head over with Fairy Mo Qing to watch Yang Ruoxu struggle on the brink of death. However, he did not expect Mo Qing to be completely uninterested. When Sword Immortal Yu Hua saw that Mo Qing did not seem to care about Yang Ruoxu's safety and did not seem to be faking it, he was puzzled as well. What's going on? What went wrong? As Sword Immortal Yu Hua pondered, he sensed something and looked in the direction of the inner sect of the academy. Dark clouds filled the skies and lightning flashed. Someone from the inner sect of the academy was undergoing tribulation transcendence. It might be that lad, Fang Qingyun. Sword Immortal Yu Hua thought to himself and turned to Fairy Mo Qing, inviting, junior sister, someone from the inner sect is undergoing tribulation transcendence. Why don't we go take a look? I'm not going. Mo Qing shook her head gently and thought to herself, what's so interesting about a tribulation transcendence? Furthermore, she did not like to join crowds to begin with. The tribulation transcendence would definitely attract countless people, so she was even more unwilling to appear. Fairy Mo Qing did not bid farewell either and turned to walk towards the cave abode, leaving nothing but a back view for Sword Immortal Yu Hua. Sword Immortal Yu Hua was snubbed despite his repeated invites. Feeling disappointed, his smile gradually disappeared. Right then, a streak of light sped over at an extremely fast speed and arrived before Sword Immortal Yu Hua in the blink of an eye. It was a legacy disciple of the academy, Shaoli. Senior brother. Shaoli shouted from afar. What is it? Sword Immortal Yu Hua asked with a frown. Nothi. When Shaoli saw Sword Immortal Yu Hua's frustrated expression, he hesitated for a moment. Sword Immortal Yu Hua looked in the direction of the inner sect of the academy and asked casually, who is the one undergoing the tribulation transcendence in the inner sect? Fang Qingyun? No. Shaoli shook his head and said hesitantly, it's Yang Ruoxu. Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression changed and the sharpness in his body burst forth. Releasing it, he glared at Shaoli coldly and asked slowly, who? Yang Ruoxu. Shaoli gulped. His essence spirit was severely injured but he can still attempt tribulation transcendence? Suddenly, Sword Immortal Yu Hua's tone turned extremely sharp. Shaoli said, I heard that his essence spirit recovered completely after consuming the Soraka fruit. Soraka fruit? Sword Immortal Yu Hua's expression darkened as he asked, where did the Soraka fruit come from? Shaoli replied, Su Zimo of the inner sect, the one who condensed the 10th stone step on the Tao Heart Stairs 1,000 years ago and was accepted by the sect master as an in-name disciple. He obtained it in Avicii. It's him. Sword Immortal Yu Hua narrowed his eyes gradually. Chapter 2360, 2366 of 9 Heavenly Tribulation. 2366 of 9 Heavenly Tribulation. Heaven and Earth Academy, above the inner sect. 3 figures with powerful auras suddenly appeared. They were 4 of the Academy's 9 great elders, the Grand Elder, Elder 2, Elder 5 and Elder 9. Hurry and disperse. Aren't you afraid that the heavenly tribulation will descend and implicate you? Elder 2 looked down at the many inner sect disciples below and hollered. Many cultivators were alarmed and recalled the dangers that might happen during the tribulation transcendence. They retreated one after another and left the range of the dark clouds above their heads. The tribulation transcendence of a heaven immortal was the most important and dangerous step in the cultivation of the upper world. One had to converge the black, earth and heaven essences into one, infusing it into their dermic Tao to condense a Tao fruit before they could advance to the perfected One Realm. The lifespan of a perfected One Realm cultivator would increase to more than 500,000 years. During the Tao fruit condensation process, a heavenly tribulation would descend. The limit of the lower worlds was the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Typically speaking, the weakest heavenly tribulation for the perfected One tribulation was the 6 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Of course, this was the calamity that most heaven immortals would face. In rare cases, because some living beings were innately strong, possessed extraordinary bloodlines or were envied by the heavens, there was a chance that the stronger 7 of 9 or even 8 of 9 heavenly tribulations would be triggered. Of course, there was also the extreme heavenly tribulation of the heavenly tribulations, the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation. Almost all the living beings that could trigger the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation were the strongest paragons of the current era. If they succeeded in the tribulation transcendence, they would definitely leave their names in history. For example, the legendary Infinite Great Emperor and Longevity Great Emperor attracted the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation back then. Although the fact that a cultivator could attract the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation was proof of their strength, it was also accompanied by unimaginable danger. Throughout history, there had been many monster incarnates who failed to survive the 9 of 9 heavenly tribulation and died. In the tribulation transcendence of cultivators, all cultivators within the radius of the tribulation clouds would be attacked by the heavenly tribulation. That was the reason why the 4 elders of the Academy reminded the disciples of the Academy to watch from afar lest they were implicated by the heavenly tribulation. Throughout history, there had been countless living beings who underwent the tribulation transcendence and their experiences were recorded. During the tribulation transcendence, the person undergoing the tribulation transcendence could use any means to resist the heavenly tribulation. Be it array formations, talismans, divine powers or dermic treasures, there was no problem. However, he could not find outsiders to help him resist the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, the process of tribulation transcendence was an indispensable part of condensing the Tao fruit and stepping into the perfected One Realm. Without the baptism and tempering of the heavenly tribulation, it was impossible to condense a true Tao fruit. Furthermore, during the tribulation transcendence, cultivators could use the heavenly tribulation to refine their dermic treasures. If a dermic treasure survived the heavenly tribulation, it would transform into a sentient dermic treasure and become even stronger. That was why there were tribulation spirit treasures. There was one additional thing to take note of for tribulation transcendence. Generally speaking, even if one could successfully undergo the tribulation transcendence and step into the perfected One Realm, cultivators would become extremely weak after withstanding a few rounds of the heavenly tribulation. At that time, it would be best if they had experts protecting them. Otherwise, it would be extremely easy for enemies to take advantage of the situation and assassinate them. Therefore, itinerant cultivators in the upper world would be extremely cautious at this step and search for a deserted barren ground to undergo the tribulation transcendence. The location of the tribulation transcendence would be extremely confidential and kept to themselves. The situation would be much better if a disciple of a heaven-level sect like Yang Ruoxu underwent tribulation transcendence. As long as he underwent the tribulation transcendence in the Academy, an elder would definitely appear to protect him in case anything happened. Any perfected immortal was a cornerstone of the major sects and factions and was extremely important. Dark clouds were overcast and lightning flashed as thunder rumbled. Yang Ruoxu stood in the air with the righteousness sword in hand. He looked up at the firmament with a righteous aura and was fearless. "Come on!" Yang Ruoxu shouted. Crack. The red heavenly tribulation descended. Yang Ruoxu did not use any divine powers or dermic arts and only relied on his body to defend. Apart from the righteousness sword in his hand, there were 7 to 8 heaven-grade dermic treasures floating beside him, ready to be tempered by the heavenly tribulation. Boom! 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 The heavenly tribulation descended continuously. Its color gradually deepened and its power became stronger. In the end, the heavenly tribulation that descended from the dark clouds had already turned into dark red lightning that was as thick as a stone pillar and smashed heavily onto Yang Ruoxu's body. Yang Ruoxu shuddered, but he gritted his teeth and resisted with his body. A moment later, the 9 strikes of the heavenly tribulation ended. However, this was only the first level. It was also the level that posed the least threat. There were at least 5 more heavenly tribulations, each stronger than the last. A charred mark from being struck by lightning appeared on the dermic treasures beside Yang Ruoxu as well. These dermic treasures had already transformed into tribulation sentient dermic treasures. The dark clouds above Yang Ruoxu's head changed rapidly. Without giving him much time to rest, the second heavenly tribulation quickly descended. This time, the color of the heavenly tribulation had already turned yellow, and its strength had increased several times. Yang Ruoxu had no choice but to raise his righteousness chi to resist the impact of the second heavenly tribulation. Before long, the second heavenly tribulation ended. Yang Ruoxu heaved a sigh of relief and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Soon, the third heavenly tribulation descended. The color of the heavenly tribulation had already changed to green and its strength increased again. This time round, Yang Ruoxu had no choice but to take out the surrounding dermic treasures to resist the power of the heavenly tribulation. Crack! 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 The 9 strikes of the heavenly tribulation bombarded continuously and 3 dermic treasures could not withstand it. Cracks appeared and their light dimmed as they fell. Not all dermic treasures could survive the baptism of the heavenly tribulation. The 4th heavenly tribulation descended. This was a blue heavenly tribulation. The huge blue lightning struck down continuously. Yang Ruoxu summoned many divine powers and secret skills to defend against it. After this round of heavenly tribulation, 2 more dermic treasures beside him were destroyed. Immediately after, it was the 5th heavenly tribulation. Purple lightning enveloped Yang Ruoxu and did not give him any chance to catch his breath. Yang Ruoxu released his bloodline phenomenon and continued to resist the heavenly tribulation. In front of this vast and terrifying heavenly tribulation, Yang Ruoxu's figure seemed so tiny. After being repelled time and time again, he charged forward once more. Finally, the 5th heavenly tribulation ended. Apart from the righteousness sword in his hand, Yang Ruoxu's dermic treasures were all shattered. He was also covered in injuries from the heavenly tribulations, but he still stood with his sword and did not submit. The 6th heavenly tribulation appeared. The gray lightning with a hint of deathly power smashed down fiercely and almost pierced through Yang Ruoxu's body. Yang Ruoxu spat out blood and swayed. The second strike of the heavenly tribulation. Bang! Yang Ruoxu was smashed into the mud, creating a huge pit. His entire body was charred and green smoke rose. He no longer resembled a human. Boom! Immediately after, the 3rd strike of the heavenly tribulation struck. Blood and flesh splattered from Yang Ruoxu's body. In some places, even white bones were revealed. It was a shocking sight. Su Zimo, Princess Scarlet Rainbow, Lu Ping and the others looked at this scene with worried expressions but were helpless. Yang Ruoxu could only shoulder the heavenly tribulation himself. There were still a few strikes of the heavenly tribulation left. As long as he could survive them, he would experience a meteoric rise and become a perfected immortal. Chapter 2361, 2361 Settling Grudges. 2361 Settling Grudges. Yang Ruoxu's tribulation transcendence caused a huge commotion and almost all the disciples of the academy were alarmed. Observing the process of the tribulation transcendence could also allow other disciples to gain experience and insights. Under the bombardment of the sixth heavenly tribulation, Yang Ruoxu fell and stood up again and again. His body became increasingly battered while his injuries were aggravated. At this point of the tribulation transcendence, he had already used up all his trump cards. He relied on the righteousness sword in his hand, his personal righteousness, and his fearless Tao heart. No one knew if he could survive. I wonder how many heavenly tribulations senior brother Yang can attract. In his current condition, the 6 of 9 heavenly tribulation is his limit. An additional level will kill him. Finally, the 6 of 9 heavenly tribulation ended. The tribulation clouds retreated and light reappeared. Yang Ruoxu lay in the huge pit created by the heavenly tribulation. His body was filled with electric arcs, and his aura was weak. He was practically half dead, but he still gripped the righteousness sword tightly. The righteousness sword had already transformed into a 6 tribulation spirit treasure after experiencing the baptism of the 6 of 9 heavenly tribulation. If he had the chance to temper and baptize it in the future, it could still reach the level of a 7 or 8 tribulation spirit treasure. As for whether it could become a 9 tribulations pure yang spirit treasure, that would depend on luck. It's finally over. Princess Scarlet Rainbow felt relieved and was the first to charge at Yang Ruoxu. The 4 elders landed one after another. The Grand Elder extended his finger and tapped Yang Ruoxu's body a few times to stabilize his injuries. Elder 9 took out a few immortal pills and fed them to Yang Ruoxu. Yang Ruoxu perked up. With Princess Scarlet Rainbow's help, he tried his best to stand up and bowed. Thank you, elders. The 4 elders nodded slightly and looked at Yang Ruoxu with satisfaction. Choose one of us as your masters. The Grand Elder smiled gently and said, among the 4 of us, Elder 5 is the strongest in terms of combat strength. Among the 9 of us, he's also the strongest. Elder 9 said, if not, he wouldn't have been able to control the immortal army of the academy. Elder 5 looked at Yang Ruoxu and said, your aptitude is indeed not bad. It's just that benevolence does not lead troops. You are not suitable to become my disciple. From Elder 5's point of view, Yang Ruoxu was upright and chivalrous, and it was easy for him to fight for injustice. However, that also meant that he had a benevolent side in his heart. Become my disciple. The Grand Elder said, I cultivated the Righteousness Sutra before. Although I gave up in the end, I still gained some insights. Greetings, Master. Yang Ruoxu did not decline and knelt down. Congratulations. There's now one more cultivator in the Academy's legacy ground. The other 3 elders cupped their fists in joy. The Grand Elder's gaze landed on the many inner sect disciples below and he suddenly said, there seemed to be a conflict here just now. Princess Scarlet Rainbow looked indignant and could not help but say, it's Chang-Chi and the rest. They brought some immortal servants and barged into Ruoxu's cave abode to snatch the righteousness sword. Thankfully, senior brother Su stopped them. Oh. The Grand Elder's face darkened. Yang Ruoxu had already joined the legacy ground to become a legacy disciple. As the Grand Elder and Yang Ruoxu's master, he naturally had to stand up for Yang Ruoxu and deal with things for him. Elder 2, you're in charge of discipline. How should we deal with this matter? The Grand Elder asked calmly. Chang-Chi and the others trembled and turned pale. Elder 2 smiled sinisterly and said slowly, Chang-Chi, you violated the sect rules. Although I can spare your life, I will cripple your cultivation and you will be expelled from the academy. The other 5 inner sect disciples will be demoted to immortal servants and are not allowed to enter the inner sect again. The remaining immortal servants are all expelled from the academy. Crippling his cultivation was a severe punishment. It was equivalent to Chang-Chi's many years of cultivation being destroyed overnight. I merely erred in the moment, please show mercy, Elder 2. Elders, please give me another chance. Chang-Chi knelt on the ground and kowtowed, begging for mercy non-stop. Elder 2 was expressionless. It was senior brother Fong who asked me to Changqi suddenly turned around and looked at Fang Qingyun in the crowd, ready to testify against him. Changqi, how dare you? At this time, you're still talking nonsense and creating trouble everywhere. Fang Qingyun shouted and interrupted Changqi. Elder Tu frowned slightly. He naturally knew what Changqi wanted to say. However, Fang Qingyun was the #1 inner sect disciple after all and was most likely to advance to the perfected one realm next. There was no need to involve him. This matter had to end with Changqi. It was not appropriate to involve too many people. At that thought, Elder Tu waved his robe and a divine light entered Changqi's body, crippling his cultivation. Changqi sat paralyzed on the ground, as if he had aged 100,000 years in an instant. He looked at Fang Qingyun in the crowd and did not dare to make a sound. He no longer had any cultivation. If he said another word, he might not be able to leave Heaven and Earth Academy alive. When your injuries stabilize, go to the legacy ground and choose a cave abode. The Grand Elder instructed again before leaving with the 3 elders. Many inner sect disciples looked at Yang Ruoxu, Fang Qingyun, Su Zimo, and the others with emotional expressions and lamented in their hearts. Yang Ruoxu and Fang Qingyun had been fighting openly and secretly for many years. Because Sword Immortal Yu Hua was backing Fang Qingyun, no one thought highly of Yang Ruoxu. Over the years, many cultivators were unwilling to get too close to Yang Ruoxu. However, no one expected that Yang Ruoxu would step into the perfected one realm and become the Grand Elder's disciple while Changqi would end up crippled. In this competition, Fang Qingyun could be said to have suffered a crushing defeat. Of course, some inner sect disciples knew that the situation was completely changed only because of the sect master's in-name disciple, Su Zimo. Although Yang Ruoxu had left the inner sect and entered the legacy ground, everyone knew that the inner sect of the academy was about to change. On one side was Fang Qingyun, who had been there for many years. On the other side was Su Zimo, who was gaining fame. Both of them were backed by legacy disciples. The conflicts within the academy might become even more intense in the future. Congratulations, Senior Brother Yang. Senior Brother Yang, I'm Chi Han. We completed a mission together previously. Senior Brother Yang, you're amazing. Please guide me in the future. Many inner sect disciples surrounded Yang Ruoxu and congratulated him. Yang Ruoxu looked at the smiling faces of his fellow disciples and a trace of mockery flashed across the depths of his eyes. He felt a little nauseous. Over the years, no one was willing to get too close to him. A few days ago, his cave abode was still deserted. Now that he had stepped into the perfected immortal realm, he could be said to have experienced a meteoric rise. Immediately, many fellow disciples came to congratulate him while reminding him of their relationship. Yang Ruoxu held Princess Scarlet Rainbow's hand and looked at Su Zimo, Lu Ping, and his Dao child. The few of them looked at each other and smiled. Their friendship was indescribable. Chapter 2362, 2362 Zephyr Thunder Palace. 2362 Zephyr Thunder Palace. As a bystander, Su Zimo could naturally tell that the relationship between Yang Ruoxu and Princess Scarlet Rainbow was rising rapidly and had already exceeded that of fellow disciples. This was not difficult to imagine. When Yang Ruoxu was seriously injured, he was taken care of by a woman like Princess Scarlet Rainbow. She stayed by his side at all times and he felt both gratitude and affection towards her. To begin with, Yang Ruoxu was an open and honest person. He was extremely righteous. The more Princess Scarlet Rainbow understood, the more she admired him. As the two of them spent time together, it was understandable for them to develop feelings for one another. If the two of them could achieve fruition and become Dao companions, Su Zimo would wish them well and be happy for them. After this matter was over, Heaven and Earth Academy would regain a period of peace. Su Zimo returned to his cave abode and prepared to enter seclusion again. Before entering seclusion, he opened up an open-air courtyard in the depths of the cave abode and planted the Ashoka tree trunk he found in Avicii. The green lotus true body could absorb a large amount of dense heaven and earth essence chi and gather it in this cave abode. While nourishing his body and bloodline, it would also nourish the Ashoka tree. It was still unknown if the Ashoka tree could be revived. But no matter what, he had to give it a try. Once everything was ready, Su Zimo closed his cave abode and entered seclusion to cultivate Avicii. After confirming that the green lotus true body had settled down, the martial Tao prime body prepared to leave and return to the fiend domain. This time, he had Ming Zhen with him. Once they were reunited with Yan Beichen, these three old friends from Tianhuang mainland would naturally have a good drink together. The martial Tao prime body summoned the hell suppression tripod and tore through the void, leaving Avicii. The moment he arrived above Azura Monastery, Ming Zhen sensed the heaven and earth essence chi again and immediately broke through the barrier of the heavenly essence realm to become a heaven immortal. He was a grade 9 earth immortal to begin with and had received Emperor Ananda's inheritance. He had accumulated a lot and only did not break through because he was in Avicii. The martial Tao prime body guarded at the side and raised his head slightly to look at the sky. Avicii formed a world of its own and could even isolate the descent of heavenly tribulations. At that moment, no heavenly tribulation descended after the martial Tao prime body appeared. The existence of the martial Tao prime body was a variable to begin with. Back in Tianhuang mainland, the martial Tao prime body had resisted the summoning power of the upper world for Ji Yaoshue and the others. He faked his death using the divine punishment and stayed in Tianhuang mainland for thousands of years. At this moment, as long as the martial Tao prime body retracted his aura and did not release the spirit consciousness power of the true martial realm or any divine powers and secret skills, he could still deceive the world and escape the heavenly tribulations. The martial Tao prime body was careful as he slowly released a wisp of true martial realm spirit consciousness. Indeed. Instantly, the skies changed drastically and a violent wind blew. Dark clouds enveloped the skies above Azura Monastery and the world dimmed rapidly with a terrifying might. The martial Tao prime body hurriedly retracted his aura and spirit consciousness. The tribulation clouds did not dissipate immediately, as though there were a pair of eyes hidden within, looking down at the living beings in this area. The martial Tao prime body was like an old monk in meditation, his martial spirit silent in his consciousness. After a long while, when the pair of eyes did not seem to notice anything unusual, the tribulation clouds in the sky gradually dissipated. To the martial Tao prime body, he was not in a hurry to undergo the tribulation transcendence. Furthermore, Ming Zhen was breaking through beside him. If he were to undergo the tribulation transcendence now, Ming Zhen would be the first to be struck to death by the heavenly tribulations. Before long, Ming Zhen successfully stepped into the heaven essence realm and stabilized his cultivation realm. He opened his eyes and heaved a sigh of relief. The martial Tao prime body brought Ming Zhen to the nearest teleportation formation and prepared to return to Tianhuang sect. Fiend domain, Tianhuang sect. There were thousands of cultivators gathered in the square outside the main hall of Tianhuang sect. Most of them were black immortals and earth immortals. They were in an extremely sorry state and were covered in injuries with frightened expressions. Furthermore, they were not cultivators of Tianhuang sect. Heavenly Wolf was in human form and sat in the main hall of the Tianhuang sect imposingly. On both sides sat 8 heaven immortal experts. Apart from Yan Beichen, there were men and women among the other 7. They were all grade 8 and 9 heaven immortals. They were the 7 emotions fiend generals that Heavenly Wolf had recruited over the years. When Yan Beichen woke up after returning from Avicii, his injuries had already healed. With Emperor Bo Sun's legacy, the complete fiend obsession Buddha Karmic Sutra, and the inheritance of the Ji Du Saber, his cultivation speed was extremely terrifying. He was already a grade 2 heaven immortal. He was only slightly inferior compared to Heavenly Wolf. Below the hall stood 2 grade 3 heaven immortals, a man and a woman. The man was tall and handsome, but there seemed to be an irreconcilable sadness between his brows. The woman's clothes were as white as snow and she was extremely beautiful. Her eyes were like water as she looked at the man with a hint of tenderness and love. The two of them stood together like an immortal couple. However, the two of them seemed to have traveled a long way. They looked tired and travel-worn, and they seemed to be injured. The thousands of cultivators outside the hall were also brought over by the two of them. "Greetings, Sect Master Heavenly Wolf." The melancholic man bowed. Heavenly Wolf nodded slightly. "Tell me about your backgrounds. Why did you bring thousands of remnant troops to the territory of my Tianhuang sect? Are you intending to submit to me?" The man said, "I'm Gu Tongyu, from Zephyr Thunder Palace, an Earthgrade sect in the heartland of the Fiend Domain. The thousands of cultivators we brought over are also from Zephyr Thunder Palace." Upon hearing the word Zephyr Thunder Palace, the 7 Emotions Fiend generals and the others did not react. However, Yan Beichen's expression changed as he frowned slightly and looked at Gu Tongyu carefully. Heavenly Wolf chuckled. "The only fiend tree of the Fiend Domain, the Undying Tree, lies in the heartland of the Fiend Domain. There, heaven and earth essence chi is rich and countless rare treasures are buried underground. Essence spirit mines and ancient ruins can be found everywhere. That place is filled with killing every day. Every day, there might be sects and factions that completely disappear. An Earthgrade sect is nothing." Heavenly Wolf was once the 7 Emotions Fiend King. He followed Emperor Bo Sun to unify the entire Fiend Domain, so he naturally knew every region of the Fiend Domain like the back of his hand. Although Tianhuang's sect was a Blackgrade sect, it was located in a corner of the Fiend Domain where resources were scarce. Therefore, it had never faced much threats. Gu Tongyu said, "Sect Master Heavenly Wolf, you're right. Some time ago, Zephyr Thunder Palace was targeted by various factions. Experts appeared and joined forces with 18 other Earthgrade sects to form the 18 Fiend armies to attack Zephyr Thunder Palace." Heavenly Wolf raised his brow. Seems like Zephyr Thunder Palace is rather capable to be able to alarm 18 sects and factions of the same level to join forces. However, to be able to summon experts from 18 Earthgrade sects, they must be even more powerful and have an impressive background. Gu Tongyu nodded. "The person in the lead is the Supreme Perfected Fiend of the current era, Yan Zui." Supreme Perfected Fiend. Upon hearing these words, the 7 Emotions Fiend generals trembled and fear flashed through their eyes. Only the number 1 on the Perfected Fiend ranking was qualified to become a Supreme Perfected Fiend. Among the Perfected Fiends, no one was above him. He was invincible among Perfected Fiends. A Fiend general sneered, "Since the Supreme Perfected Fiend is there a need to ally with other sects and factions? He alone is enough to destroy Zephyr Thunder Palace. He's not enough." Gu Tongyu shook his head slightly. "He fought against our palace lord, but there was no clear victor." Chapter 2363 Disaster. 2363 Disaster. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat. Immediately after, the 7 Emotions Fiend generals reacted and sneered with mocking expressions. A Fiend general said, "According to what you said, Zephyr Thunder Palace is an Earthgrade faction. In other words, your palace lord's cultivation should be at the Perfected One realm." "That's right." Gu Tongyu nodded. The Fiend general sneered, "I'm afraid you don't know the weight of the word Supreme Perfected Fiend. Supreme means that no one is his match among perfected fiends. What rights does your palace lord of Zephyr Thunder Palace have to fight the Supreme Perfected Fiend to a draw? Fufu, you're full of nonsense. Do you really think we can't see through your lies? If the palace lord of Zephyr Thunder Palace is such a character, why haven't I heard of him before? He isn't even on the Perfected Fiend ranking, right?" The Fiend general sneered. Gu Tongyu had a calm expression and was not angry. "Our palace lord is not from the Fiend Domain. He escaped from the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain where he was previously the Supreme Perfected Immortal." The expressions of everyone in the hall changed. If what Gu Tongyu said was true, then the Supreme Perfected Immortal might indeed be able to fight Yan Zui to a draw. Heavenly Wolf pressed his hands together and suppressed the discussion. He said in a deep voice, "Continue." Gu Tongyu said, "Among the commanders of the 18 fiend armies, apart from Supreme Perfected Fiend Yen Zui, there's also Fairy Purple River, who's ranked 4th on the Perfected Fiend ranking, Dragon Fiend, who's ranked 6th, and the Fiend Saber, Li Patian, who's ranked 7th. Everyone present was shocked. There were already 4 experts on the Perfected Fiend ranking. From this, one could infer how powerful the Palace Lord of Zephyr Thunder Palace was. Otherwise, he would not have attracted so many important figures. When the 18 fiend armies joined forces to attack, the Palace Lord could not hold on alone. Zephyr Thunder Palace's territory was devoured continuously and many cultivators died every day. When Gu Tongyu mentioned this matter, he said with a sorrowful expression, "In desperation, the Palace Lord could only do his best to help us carve out a bloody path so that we could escape from the Heartland." However, the Palace Lord was injured in this battle and was trapped in the main hall of Zephyr Thunder Palace. Gu Tongyu tried his best to describe this matter in the simplest words. Even so, Yen Beichen could imagine the tragic battle back then. There are only a few thousand cultivators left. Heavenly Wolf rolled his eyes. "I sympathize with your plight. However, our Tianhuang sect is only a black-grade sect. Even if we want to, we won't be able to save Zephyr Thunder Palace. Thank you for your kind intentions, Sect Master. We're not here to ask for your help." Gu Tongyu cupped his fists. "We only hope that Tianhuang's sect can take in the thousands of cultivators outside. They're all from the lower worlds and it's not easy for them to cultivate. If we let them disperse, there's no way out." Heavenly Wolf did not respond immediately. Ever since the establishment of the Tianhuang sect, it was true that everyone who ascended from the lower worlds was treated equally. This was a rule set by the Martial Tao Prime Body. However, the Martial Tao Prime Body had already died in Avicii. Furthermore, this matter involved a lot of people. It was fine to take in thousands of cultivators, but if it implicated him and the Tianhuang sect, the gains would not make up for the losses. The woman beside Gu Tongyu cupped her hands and said, "I'm Chiu Siluo. As long as you are willing to take them in, Sect Master, the 2 of us will leave immediately." "Where will you go?" Heavenly Wolf asked. Chiu Siluo smiled and said, "The 2 of us escaped from the immortal domain and were saved by our Palace Lord. That's why we were able to gain a foothold in the Fiend domain. We brought these people here to fulfill the Palace Lord's wish. If those people outside have a place to settle down, the 2 of us will naturally return to Zephyr Thunder Palace and fight alongside the Palace Lord." "All right." Suddenly, Yen Beichen spoke and praised. He looked at Gu Tongyu and Chiu Siluo and said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoists, where is the Palace Lord of Zephyr Thunder Palace from?" "Tianhuang mainland." Gu Tongyu said, "The Palace Lord once told us that if there's someone from Tianhuang mainland in Tianhuang sect, they should have heard of his name. His real name is Feng Cantian and he's called the Thunder Emperor in Tianhuang mainland." "Indeed." Yen Beichen's eyes lit up. The Martial Tao Prime Body had once mentioned to him about meeting Feng Cantian in the upper world. Therefore, the moment he heard of Zephyr Thunder Palace, he thought of the Thunder Emperor. The sect left behind by the Thunder Emperor in Tianhuang mainland was Zephyr Thunder Palace. Yen Beichen said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoists, don't worry. The cultivators outside will stay in Tianhuang sect." The 7 fiend generals frowned in disgust. Heavenly Wolf frowned as well. "Brother Yen, should we reconsider this matter?" "There's no need to consider. I'll agree to this." Yen Beichen's tone was resolute as he looked at Gu Tongyu and Chiu Siluo before saying murderously, "Fellow Taoists, I'll accompany you guys to Zephyr Thunder Palace and fight alongside the Thunder Emperor." "No." Heavenly Wolf rejected immediately. He had promised the Martial Tao Prime Body that he would take care of Yen Beichen's safety. Yen Beichen was only a grade 2 heaven immortal. If he were to head to Zephyr Thunder Palace, which was in the heartland of the Fiend domain, he would be drowned before he could cause any waves in a battle of that level. Yen Beichen, I don't care if you have a death wish. However, don't implicate us. A fiend general said coldly. That's right. Another person pointed to the thousands of cultivators outside the hall. If Tianhuang's sect takes in these lowlifes, we'll be attracting trouble. There's no need for us to take the risk. Furthermore, since when was it your turn to call the shots in Tianhuang's sect, Yen Beichen? Yen Beichen looked at the 7 fiend generals and said coldly, this is a rule set by the sect master back then. Everyone who ascended from the lower worlds shall be treated with equality. A fiend general sneered, our sect master back then has already died in Avicii. Those bullshit rules should have been abandoned a long time ago. The current sect master is Lord Heavenly Wolf. Sect master, please chase these people out as soon as possible lest they bring forth destruction for us. The other fiend generals stood out and persuaded. When Gu Tongyu saw that, the melancholy in his eyes deepened as he sighed gently. Heavenly Wolf fell into deep thought as well. Right now, he was already free. After all these years of operation, with the help of the 7 emotions fiend generals, he had long taken complete control of Tianhuang's sect. If he wanted to change the rules left behind by the martial Dao prime body, he could have done it a long time ago. However, he did not do that. When the martial Dao prime body fell into Avicii and knew that he was going to die, he removed the seal on Heavenly Wolf's essence spirit, allowing the latter to regain his freedom. Actually, from that moment on, in the depths of Heavenly Wolf's heart, he had already acknowledged the martial Dao prime body as his master. If he was still alive, he would definitely take in these people. Suddenly, Heavenly Wolf murmured softly before taking a deep breath and making up his mind. Don't worry, Tianhuang's sect will take good care of the thousands of cultivators outside and settle them down so that they can integrate into Tianhuang's sect. Gu Tongyu and Xiao Siluo were delighted and bowed hurriedly in thanks. A mere heaven essence realm wolf. You truly don't know what's good for you. Suddenly, a sinister voice sounded erratically in the hall. You're willing to take in just about anyone, huh? There's no need for a puny sect like your Tianhuang sect to exist anymore. Chapter 2364, 2364 Secular World Desires. 2364 Secular World Desires. The expressions of everyone in the hall changed. The 7 fiend generals stood up one after another and surveyed their surroundings. They released their spirit consciousnesses and enveloped the entire hall, but they could not detect the location of the person who spoke. However, everyone knew that the intruder was in the hall. Suddenly, as though a breeze had blown by, everyone suddenly felt their waists lighten. The next moment, an additional person appeared in the hall. The person was dressed in tight martial arts attire and held a bunch of storage bags in his hands. He waved them in midair and looked at Yen Beichen and the others mockingly. Everyone present reached out hurriedly and instinctively placed their hands on the storage bag on their waists, but there was nothing. Everyone's expressions changed and they were shocked. In that instant, that person swept past them and removed their storage bags. Nobody could react to the entire process, let alone stop it. Since that person had the ability to remove the storage bags on their waists, he naturally had the ability to remove their heads. P-perfected fiend? A fiend general revealed fear and his voice trembled slightly. The 7 fiend generals were all at the level of grade 8 and 9 heaven immortals. However, they could not see through the cultivation realm of the man before them. You're quite sharp. The man said proudly. Xiefeng, to think that you would chase us all the way here. Are you really bent on wiping us out? Gu Tongyu asked with a melancholic expression. Of course. Perfected fiend Xiefeng smirked coldly and said, we have to get rid of the root of the problem. Everyone from Zephyr Thunder Palace has to die. Where's the other person? Suddenly, Gu Tongyu asked. A series of laughter sounded from outside the hall as another figure strode over with a terrifying aura that was not weaker than Xiefeng. Another perfected fiend expert. The 7 fiend generals exchanged glances and were secretly speechless. Tian Huang's sect was only a black-grade sect and did not even have a single perfected fiend expert. Perfected fiend Xie Feng laughed. Tsang Yan, you're too slow. I'm naturally inferior to you in terms of movement technique. Perfected fiend Song Yen was indifferent. However, you can't compare to me in terms of killing. Perfected fiend Xie Feng pouted. That's not for sure. Let's compete again later. We'll attack at the same time to destroy all the living beings of Tianhuang's sect to see who can kill more. All right. Perfected fiend Song Yen agreed readily with a burst of killing intent. Hold on. Wait a minute. In the hall, the 7 fiend generals spoke at almost the same time. A fiend general pointed at Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo and forced a smile. Seniors, they were the ones who came looking for us. We didn't decide to take them in. That's right. Another fiend general smiled apologetically. We don't know them at all. We merely exist here in a corner of the fiend domain and have no contact with Zephyr Thunder Palace or anything. Perfected fiend Xie Feng raised his brows slightly and mocked. However, I clearly heard that someone wanted to take them in. The person who made that promise seemed to be your sect master, huh? Our sect master. He must have been blinded by their sweet nothings and erred in the moment. The 7 fiend generals looked at Heavenly Wolf and gestured for him to bow down and admit his mistake. Heavenly Wolf had a dark expression and remained silent. Back then, he was the 7 emotions immortal king after all. How could he bow down so easily? Although he acknowledged the martial Dao prime body as his master, he was only forced to submit after being tortured by the latter for thousands of years. If this was his previous life, he could kill the 2 perfected fiends before him with a single flick of his pinky. Now, even 2 mere perfected fiends dared to show off in front of him. He had cultivation experience from his previous life. Although his cultivation speed was fast, he was only a grade 4 heaven immortal right now and was not a match for the 2 perfected fiends. Given the circumstances, he could only bow down if he wanted to survive. However, he was indignant. Sigh. Gu Tongyu sighed gently. Too many people have died in the past few days. This matter started because of the 2 of us. I hope that the 2 of you won't implicate others and just kill the 2 of us. Qiu Siluo did not say anything and merely gripped Gu Tongyu's hand tightly with a gentle but firm gaze. Fufu. Perfected fiend Song Yen sneered. The 2 of you and the lowlifes of Zephyr Thunder Palace waiting outside will definitely die. You've already brought with you a calamity the moment you arrived here. The 7 fiend generals shuddered when they heard that. One of them looked at Heavenly Wolf and could not help but urge, Sect Master, what are you thinking about? Hurry and apologize to the 2 perfected fiends. Heavenly Wolf glared at that person and said coldly, shut up. No matter what, he was still the sect master of Tianhuang's sect. How dare the 7 fiend generals he subdued and recruited speak to him in such a tone? Sect master, in my opinion, there's truly no need for Tianhuang's sect to exist. Why don't we join the 2 perfected fiends together? Another fiend general said. Exactly. The other fiend generals echoed. Ha 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 ha. When Xie Feng and Song Yen saw that, they could not help but burst into laughter. The 2 of them exchanged glances with a tacit understanding. Actually, the 2 of them had already decided that they wanted to destroy Tianhuang's sect and kill all living beings without mercy. However, the 2 of them were in no hurry to attack as they watched the entertaining show. The 2 of them enjoyed the feeling of being high and above, controlling everyone's lives and deaths as they watched the ants of Tianhuang's sect fight to the death. Why? You guys want to betray me? Heavenly Wolf's gaze was cold as he glared at the 7 fiend generals and said slowly, don't forget, I've got seals within your bodies. The reason why he could subdue the 7 of them and form the 7 emotions fiend generals was because he used a secret skill from his previous life to plant seals. Otherwise, given his cultivation, he would not have been able to control these 7 top-tier heaven immortals. At the mention of the seals, the 7 fiend generals shuddered and did not dare to say anything more. Heavenly Wolf stood up slowly and looked at the 2 perfected fiends before saying in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoists, I can ignore everyone from Zephyr Thunder Palace. However, please show mercy and not vent your anger on Tianhuang's sect." Ever since Tianhuang's sect was established, the martial Tao Prime Body had barely managed it. Its growth to this point was almost entirely Heavenly Wolf's efforts. He did not want to give up Tianhuang's sect just like that. "How dare you call me fellow Taoist, beast?" Suddenly, perfected fiend Song Yen extended his palm and grabbed Heavenly Wolf through the void. It was as though a tremendous power had descended and grabbed Heavenly Wolf by the throat, yanking him towards perfected fiend Song Yen. The 7 fiend generals did not dare to move. Die. Right then, a saber beam flashed in an incomparably stunning manner. Saber intent surged and the boundless secular world surged forth, causing one's desires to intensify and they could not extricate themselves. Yen Beichen had attacked. That slash was a killing move from the Fiend Obsession Buddha Karmic Sutra. Secular world desires. Perfected fiend Song Yen had a mocking expression. A grade 2 heaven immortal ant actually dared to attack him. However, the next moment, a look of shock flashed through his eyes as he froze on the spot. Endless desires surged over. It was as though he could see himself become a fiend emperor and rule over the fiend domain, dominating through history with countless beauties bowing down to him. It was as though he could see himself leading 1 billion fiends to conquer the pure land of bliss, the 9 firmament immortal domain, and eventually become the master of the heavenly world. It was as though he could see himself ascending to the major kiliacosm, gaining eternal life. Suddenly, in the consciousness of perfected fiend Song Yen, the Tao fruit shook and shone with an endless brilliance. His dermic Tao spread and woke him up from his desires. Unfortunately, he was still a step too late. Poof! The saber beam landed on his face and tore through his flesh with fresh blood splattering everywhere. Chapter 2365, 2365 Appearance of the Prime Body. 2365 Appearance of the Prime Body. Yen Beichen wielded the Ji-Du saber and struck perfected fiend Song Yan's face, creating a wound so deep that his bones could be seen as fresh blood dripped. However, the difference in cultivation realm between them was immense and so was their strength. If not for the sharpness of the Ji-Du saber, Yen Beichen's slash would not have been able to hurt perfected fiend Song Yen even if it affected his mind. A look of regret flashed through Yen Beichen's eyes. The Ji-Du saber was stuck in the bones on his cheek. Eventually, it could not break through perfected fiend Song Yan's consciousness and destroy his essence spirit. Even so, perfected fiend Song Yen broke out in cold sweat and retreated. He was a perfected fiend and his physique and bloodline were strong. Ordinary heaven-grade dermic treasures could not hurt his flesh at all. However, that saber could tear through his flesh. What was even more frightening was that even his essence spirit nearly fell into the saber intent released by that slash. If the person before him was also a perfected fiend, he would have been a dead man by now. What's going on? Perfected fiend Xia Feng frowned slightly. Naturally, he could not experience or understand what happened when Yen Beichen's saber intent enveloped perfected fiend Song Yan's body earlier on. Incredible saber. However, it's with the wrong master. Endless rage burst forth from perfected fiend Song Yan's eyes. His Tao fruit was filled with a powerful dermic Tao and a halo appeared behind his head. The menacing wound on his face healed at a visible speed. Although Yen Beichen slashed his face, the power of that slash was too weak and it was only a superficial wound for a perfected fiend expert. Perfected fiend Song Yen glared at Yen Beichen and said murderously, "Ant, I'm going to burn you to ashes without a corpse left." The moment he said that, perfected fiend Song Yen suddenly opened his mouth and spat out an incomparably blinding flame. Condensed with the power of true essence, a heat wave surged towards Yen Beichen. This blue flame was the secret skill that made him famous. It was clear that he was truly enraged and filled with killing intent to release a killing technique like this blue flame against a grade 2 heaven immortal. The power of the blue flame was enough to burn the entire hall to ashes. After releasing secular world desires, Yan Beichen's essence spirit became extremely weak as well. Suddenly, Yan Beichen's vision blurred and a figure appeared, shielding him. Although Yan Beichen could only see his back, he recognized the intruder right away and could not help but feel delighted and invigorated. The intruder wore a purple robe and a cold silver mask, revealing only a pair of deep eyes with a restrained aura. When the flame swept over, the intruder merely raised his palm and grabbed it casually. Poof! The flame was crushed by the intruder's palm and turned into sparks that scattered on the ground before extinguishing. Perfected fiend Song Yan's pupils constricted as he hurriedly released his spirit consciousness to scan the intruder repeatedly. Xia Feng frowned with a grim expression as well. Master? When Heavenly Wolf saw that person, he was shocked as well and revealed a look of disbelief. Was he seeing a ghost? His master was actually able to escape from the hands of his old master after 1,000 years? Furthermore, Heavenly Wolf realized that he could no longer read the martial Dao prime body. The dermic Dao cultivated by the martial Dao prime body was extremely different from the dermic Dao cultivated in the world. Unless one were to truly fight, it would be difficult for others to see through his strength. Could it be that Master has already deduced the next dermic formulation for the martial Dao? Heavenly Wolf was even more shocked when he thought of that possibility. When the 7 emotions fiend generals saw the martial Dao prime body, their expressions changed and they revealed wary expressions. Who are you? Perfected fiend Song Yan asked in a deep voice. Perfected fiend Xia Feng said, the 2 of us are here to hunt down a few ants under the orders of the Supreme Perfected Fiend. Please don't interfere without permission, sir. The 2 perfected fiends could not tell the strength of the martial Dao prime body and hence, they mentioned the Supreme Perfected Fiend first. The martial Dao prime body ignored the 2 of them and turned to look at Yan Beichen, Heavenly Wolf and the others. Brother, you're not dead. A rare smile appeared on Yan Beichen's face. Master. Heavenly Wolf walked over as well and shouted. However, after the change in Avicii, Heavenly Wolf could not help but feel conflicted now that he was facing the martial Dao prime body once more. Firstly, Emperor Bo Sun was not dead. Secondly, the martial Dao prime body had already given him his freedom. To be precise, the 2 of them were not considered as master and servant right now. It's you guys? The gaze of the martial Dao prime body shifted and landed on Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo in slight surprise. Greetings, senior. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo hurried forward and bowed. However, the 2 of them were puzzled when they heard the words of the martial Dao prime body. Gu Tongyu asked, Senior, you know us? Yes. The martial Dao prime body nodded slightly. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo exchanged glances, even more confused. The 2 of them recalled carefully but had no impression of the purple-robed cultivator with the silver mask. We'll talk about this in the future. The martial Dao prime body did not explain and asked, what's going on? Why are the 2 of you here? Heavenly Wolf recounted roughly what happened. The martial Dao prime body nodded and looked at Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. Don't worry, since you're cultivators of Zephyr Thunder Palace, feel free to stay in Tianhuang's sect. Pardon me for asking, senior. However, what is your relationship with Tianhuang's sect? Gu Tongyu knew nothing about the martial Dao prime body nor did he know how important the words of the martial Dao prime body were in Tianhuang's sect. The martial Dao prime body said, I'm the sect master of Tianhuang's sect. Thank you, senior. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo were delighted and expressed their thanks hurriedly. Heavenly Wolf pointed at the 2 perfected fiends, Song Yan and Xia Feng, and said hatefully, Master, I told them that we could give up on taking in these people from Zephyr Thunder Palace. Even so, the 2 of them wanted to kill us all. So, you're the sect master of Tianhuang's sect. Suddenly, perfected fiend Xia Feng laughed. Let me advise you to not interfere in this matter lest you get into trouble. Perfected Fiend Song Yen said coldly as well. Zephyr Thunder Palace and the other lowlifes are people that the Supreme Perfected Fiend wants to kill. Who in the Fiend domain would dare to protect them? Who is the Supreme Perfected Fiend? The Martial Dao Prime Body asked. He truly did not know. Up till this point of his ascension to the Fiend domain, the Martial Dao Prime Body spent almost all his time cultivating and deducing the Martial Dao. He was not concerned about anything in the Fiend domain and knew very little about many Fiend cultivators. Ha! Perfected Fiend Song Yen laughed instead with a mocking expression. Here I was, wondering what sort of a ruthless character you were. So, you don't even know who the Supreme Perfected Fiend, Yen Zui, is. Perfected Fiend Xie Feng relaxed as well and chuckled. This is just a small sect at the borders of the Fiend domain after all. You can't blame him for being ignorant since he's just a frog in the well. In fact, he might not even know about the Perfected Fiend ranking. The Martial Dao Prime Body walked towards the two Perfected Fiends and said, I don't know much about the Perfected Fiend ranking, but I've seen the person ranked 10th. You've seen Sect Master White Bones before? Perfected Fiend Song Yen frowned and asked skeptically. He's already dead. The Martial Dao Prime Body came before the two Perfected Fiends and stood still, saying indifferently, I'll send you guys to meet him right away. Upon hearing that, the two Perfected Fiends suddenly felt a chill run down their spines. Chapter 2366, 2366 Suppression. 2366 Suppression. Suddenly, Perfected Fiend Song Yen felt his heart skip a beat as though a calamity was about to descend. When the Martial Dao Prime Body said that, his tone was calm. There was no threat or ferocity, as though he was stating a fact. However, the more that was the case, the more alarmed the two Perfected Fiends were. Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, the two of them felt a figure flash before them. The aura of death suddenly descended in a sinister and terrifying manner. This is bad. Perfected Fiend Xie Feng was alarmed and channeled his secret skill right away. Turning into a breeze, he vanished from the spot. However, Perfected Fiend Song Yen was a step slower. Poof! A fist seemed to have appeared out of thin air and Perfected Fiend Song Yan's head exploded with blood splattering everywhere. For the Martial Dao Prime Body, a distance of 10 feet was almost instantaneous. He did not have to use any divine powers, secret skills, or even circulate his blood chi to reach that speed, it was purely a burst of his physique. Therefore, the heavenly tribulation did not sense it either. Even so, Perfected Fiend Song Yen did not have the chance to react at all. His head was ruptured by a single punch and his essence spirit was destroyed. The Martial Dao Prime Body conveniently put away the Dao fruit of Perfected Fiend Song Yen. In his storage bag, he had Sect Master White Bones, the 14 Bone Fiends, Madame Jade Bones, Old Man Skeleton and the others Dao fruits that could be refined when he was in seclusion. Of course, there were many such treasures in Avicii that were innumerable. These treasures were within Avicii and others could not take them away. Perfected Fiend Xie Feng dodged and turned back to see Perfected Fiend Song Yen killed by a single move from Su Zimo. He was scared out of his wits. Initially, he intended to observe and see how strong the sect master of Tianhuang's sect was before making further plans. But now, there was only a single thought in his mind. Escape. When he reappeared, he was already at the entrance of the hall. Suddenly, Perfected Fiend Xie Feng felt a tremendous power behind him. Immediately after, the Martial Dao Prime Body arrived behind him. Pust. Perfected Fiend Xie Feng's expression changed starkly. Even his teleportation could not shake off the sect master of Tianhuang's sect. Typically, teleportation would not exceed 1,000 feet. For the Martial Dao Prime Body, 1,000 feet made almost no difference at all. It was already too late for Perfected Fiend Xie Feng to escape. While he was in midair, he released all the power of his essence spirit. In his consciousness, the Tao fruit was filled with dermic Tao and a halo appeared behind his head. Perfected Fiend Xia Feng conjured hand seals with both hands and created a terrifying storm. Twisting his body, he struck towards the martial Tao prime body. At the same time, Perfected Fiend Xia Feng activated his essence spirit's secret skill. At this moment of life and death, there was no room for him to hold back. Against the counterattack of Perfected Fiend Xia Feng, the martial Tao prime body did not dodge, avoid or change moves. It was still an extremely simple and direct punch. The essence spirit's secret skill was the first to descend and ripples appeared on the Mara mask like water. Suddenly, a few strange faces appeared. Immediately after, everything returned to normal. The essence spirit's secret skill was blocked by the Mara mask with ease. Bang! The storm released by Perfected Fiend Xia Feng was shattered by a single punch from the martial Tao prime body and dissipated into nothingness. The storm could not even defend against the martial Tao prime body for a moment. The fist of the martial Tao prime body landed on Perfected Fiend Xia Feng. Time seemed to have frozen for a moment. A tremendous power surged into Perfected Fiend Xia Feng's body instantly. His eyes widened in fear. Poof! The next moment, Perfected Fiend Xia Feng's body was turned into a blood mist by that tremendous power and his essence spirit was destroyed without a corpse left. A Tao fruit floated in midair. The martial Tao prime body tossed it into his storage bag casually. The hall was so silent that a pin drop could be heard. Heavenly Wolf, the 7 Emotions Fiend Generals, Gu Tongyu, Qiu Siluo, and the others were dumbfounded in shock. 2 punches were all it took for 2 perfected fiends to die. From the moment the martial Tao prime body attacked till the end, it only took 2 to 3 breaths. It was a 1 versus 2 single-handed suppression. It was only at that moment that Heavenly Wolf was certain that the martial Tao prime body had definitely entered another realm of the martial Tao. Greetings, Sect Master. Congratulations on your return, Sect Master. You've attained greater mastery of your divine technique. Feeling guilty, the 7 Emotions Fiend Generals hurried forward and bowed one after another. Humph. Recalling the performance of the 7 Emotions Fiend Generals earlier on, Heavenly Wolf's expression darkened as he said coldly, "Didn't the few of you want to follow them just now? You even wanted to give up Tianhuang's sect? Lord Heavenly Wolf, we were in the wrong earlier on and were foolish. Lord Heavenly Wolf, please forgive us." Sensing that the situation was bad, the 7 Emotions Fiend Generals knelt on the ground hurriedly and begged for mercy. This crime is unforgivable. Heavenly Wolf took a deep breath and circulated his secret skill, activating his spirit consciousness to activate the seals on the essence spirits of the 7 Emotions Fiend Generals. The expressions of the 7 Fiend Generals changed starkly and their gazes gradually froze. Their life forces decreased rapidly before they fell to the ground and died on the spot. Heavenly Wolf was once the 7 Emotions Fiend King in his previous life and was decisive to kill. There was no way he could tolerate such a betrayal from his underlings. Master. Heavenly Wolf turned to look at the martial Tao prime body. Just as he was about to speak, the latter raised his hand gently and interrupted him. Heavenly Wolf, the relationship between us can no longer be considered as a master and servant. The martial Tao prime body said, "I know that the main reason why you were willing to acknowledge me as your master back then was not because you submitted to my methods, but because you thought that Emperor Bo Sun was already dead. Now that Emperor Bo Sun has appeared and you've regained your freedom, go look for him. I won't stop you." Given the capabilities of the martial Tao prime body, it would naturally be easy for him to restrain Heavenly Wolf and set up a seal. However, Heavenly Wolf protected Yen Beichen all the way back here and even maintained Tianhuang's sect till now. In return, the martial Tao prime body gave him true freedom. Heavenly Wolf was silent. The martial Tao prime body was right, he no longer had a master-servant relationship with the martial Tao prime body. Right now, he was already free. Once he left this hall, the vast world would be out there. However, for some unknown reason, his heart suddenly felt hollow. There was no excitement or joy. Instead, there was reluctance and confusion. Although Emperor Bo-sun appeared, he disappeared for another 1,000 years without a trace. Heavenly Wolf did not know where to look for Emperor Bo-sun either. Even if he found Emperor Bo-sun, so what? Suddenly, Heavenly Wolf felt disinterested and bored. He sighed gently and walked out of the hall. Just as he was about to step out of the hall, Heavenly Wolf suddenly paused, as though he had thought of something. He turned around and looked at the martial Tao prime body. Raising his brows slightly, he said, "Although you were the one who established Tianhuang's sect, I grew and expanded it single-handedly. I've put in a lot of effort into it. Why should I leave? I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here," Heavenly Wolf said proudly before turning back with his chest puffed. When he decided to stay, he felt relieved and an indescribable joy even jolted through the depths of his heart. Beneath the silver mask, the martial Tao prime body smirked and asked, "Are you sure you're not leaving?" "Not leaving." Heavenly Wolf waved it off. "I still have to stay here and watch Tianhuang's sect rise step by step before sweeping through the Fiend Domain to become the overlord of the Fiend Domain." "As you wish." The martial Tao prime body said, "You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.